Our forefathers fought for liberty, individual freedom, self-expression, and the right to self-determination. They created a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, establishing a nation of free individuals who ignited a bright beacon of hope. America's a land where any person, from any background, can succeed, so long as they endeavor forthright with determination in their heart. A melting pot, the greatest hits album of the human race. We gather here today to renew that sacred bond, that oath to freedom. Welcome to the marketplace of ideas.
All right, amazing.
Amazing.
Wonderful. Good. Actually, you know what? We're going to do something a little irregular today. Before I introduce the show, Tali and Kay, would you mind discussing something amongst the two of you for, I don't know, 5 seconds or less? Preferably not speaking about any men. For the good of the show.
For the good of the show.
Hey, what's it like to be a mother?
Wow, it's pretty all right. You know,
Beautiful.
I have a bunch of kids. There we go.
Good evening and welcome to the show that has just officially, as of today, passed the Bechdel test, the marketplace of ideas. I'm your host, Kyle Smith, and with me, as always, is a man who's so woke that he probably cares about passing the Bechdel test, James Vagabond.
Oh, I feel so much better now that we've done it. We've finally broken the barrier. Beautiful. We're there.
That box has been remained unchecked for too long, I would
now
imagine.
and now we'll go back to instilling the patriarchy and ignoring what anyways, welcome to the Marketplace of Ideas, the show that likes to bring out the good faith and good fun in politics, debate, and discussion. Like my friend said, I'm James Vagabond, very happy to be here with you. We've got some wonderful guests tonight, and once again, I've created a dramatic intro, so get ready to have your worlds rocked.
Oh boy.
I got into my moods with this one, okay? I was rereading it today. I was like, what the f did I write this time? Oh my god, I write these things over my like 40 to 50 hour work weeks while I'm at work. So sometimes we get deep in my feelings, and I've been reading a lot of Nietzsche, or listening to a lot of Nietzsche this week.
All right, everybody grab a pillow, get comfy.
It's okay, this was not that long. Okay, here we go. We are but tiny specks in the great sea of infinity. Dust in the wind. Barnacles clinging to this great ball of rock we call Earth. Alas, we live in a world where all things come to their end. Thus we live in a state alternating between ignorance and terror of that unavoidable fact. Yet there is also a deep peace to be found in that humbling notion, a silver lining in an otherwise bleak and oppressive truth. If all things come to an end, so too must all suffering, all error, all burden. As we must perish, so too does each moment die, so that the next can be born, each instant erased as the next asserts itself. And so it is with political organization. The current party lines cannot hold, so whither will they go, hither or thither, to the left or to the right? Where will the trust of the American polis coalesce? And how should our political parties seek the favor of the American people? Tonight, on the Marketplace of Ideas, we ask the question, which party will be reborn as the party of the American people, and how? So, first question to you, Tali. Are you gay or bi or what?
Oh my god.
James, you fucked it again. You fucked it again.
Blunder.
Well, I'm gay, but the dirty little secret that the LGBTQs don't want you to know is that most lesbians are some flavor of bisexual. A lot of women are some flavor of bisexual.
Careful. You're
So
already
that's my
canceled.
bomb to
You're
drop
just gonna dig
right
deeper on
away.
it. Just gonna
Yeah.
dig deeper. The left will never forgive you for this.
Okay,
I
speaking
know.
of the left, so does anyone know Ogre Boy? Does anyone know who I'm talking about when I
I've
say
heard of this
Yes.
person.
Other than the time where you just told me about him before we started the show, no.
Yeah, so I told James and Kyle about this. Apparently, Ogre Boy has like a software that like scrapes all of YouTube, and if you say his name, like he'll know about it because of like the YouTube transcript. So I want to say like Ogre Boy, Ogre Boy, Ogre Boy, Ogre Boy. Like I need
Beetlejuice,
it to like appear. And yeah, exactly. He's gonna like appear in my mirror or something like that. Jesus.
Well, I hope he enjoys that intro that I set up so gratefully, That's not the right word. Graciously, maybe that's not even the right word. This whole thing's already fallen off the rails, and I'm blaming James for once again starting us off by asking our guest whether or not they are gay or bisexual or whatever, without even saying who they are. We have some great guests tonight. Returning to the show, we've got Tali and Kay of the Talking Shit Show podcast, whatever term you what do you call it? A show, podcast?
Show, it is. I would say.
Yeah,
show. Very good. And for the first time, friend of the show, we have North. North, are you going by your real name yet, or are you just sticking with North for now?
I mean, there's already a video on my Twitter where I say my real name, so I don't give a shit. You can call me either North or Ryan.
Well, I guess I can't dox you anymore. Disappointing.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's going to scratch off the first segment of the show. So I suppose we'll just have to get into what we had planned next. Now, as you might know, we like to break the ice on our show by exploring some less than good faith arguments, contrary to the mission of the Marketplace of Ideas.
But we do it in good faith. It incorporates good faith plenty.
If you say so. I mean, it's as good faith as bad faith can be. Maybe we'll just say that.
There we go. I like it.
And it's a game that we like to call Straw Man, Steel Man.
Straw Man.
Steel Man. Beautiful. Now, straw man, steel man, much as the game sounds, we are going to give you a straw man argument that we are then going to ask you to steel man. That is to say, we're going to give you a weak, flimsy, bad faith argument that you're going to attempt to reinterpret as something not flimsy, something that is good faith. And then you'll have the opportunity to say what you actually believe. So, we have returning here on the hallway of debate here, the Heroes of Debate hallway. We've got returning
the Pantheon.
Tali and Kay. The Pantheon, indeed. And then we've also got, on the other side, we've got North.
My lighting.
So, without further ado, we'll present the Scroll of the Straw Man. And North, if you could, I'm going to give you the honors of the first Straw Man of the day, if that's all right. We have this for you to read.
Oh boy, okay. Republicans abandoned their principles of reducing the federal budget, the power of the federal government, and the size of the government decades ago. Only Trump has had the courage to implement executive orders reducing regulations and scope of the executive agencies, making him the only true Republican. Kill me. Okay.
So we're off to a good start then.
Okay, so am I interpreting this into good faith?
Yeah,
I want you to. What if you could make this argument true? How would you give this argument?
Imagine the most rational person that believes this and say what they would say.
The problem is the people that believe this are not the most rational people. You just tell them. And
well, choose the best amongst them and pretend to be them for a moment.
It is supposed to be a challenge, after all.
How would Ryan Mullally answer this? This is
true.
Fairly close. Like he wouldn't say he's the one true Republican necessarily, but he might say that he's the best we've had in a long time.
Look, if we're going to steel man this, you know what we got to do, right? We got to blame the Democrats. So obviously, it is the Democrats who have been abusing federal power like executive orders in order to implement their woke agenda. So, Republicans need to step up. They need to take the playbook of the enemy. We're not the ones expanding the power of the president. No, Donald Trump is just doing what the Democrats have done for years. That's the reinterpreted argument. It's
very well.
Kill me, please.
you almost got through that without professing for your own death.
Yeah. True.
What do you actually believe, North? Ryan, pardon.
I think that Donald Trump has been a symbol of expanding executive power and executive overreach on the individual and on the economy, probably more than any other president in recent history, more than Obama, more than Biden, more than I guess what? Yeah, Clinton ended in year 2000, right? So more than Bush, like Donald Trump has been massive in executive overreach, and I think it's laughable to even suggest the fact that his executive orders are anything but infringing on the individual rights of the people. So,
Alrighty. How
Well,
about Tali and Kay? Do you have anything to respond? How about Kay? Let's start with you. Any responses to anything that's been said, or your thoughts on the prompt?
I think I understand, I guess, some of the argument, I guess, within the like financial cutting and stuff that Trump has done things or attempted to do things that hadn't been done. But then when you couple that with like, I don't know, his like crypto coins and self-enrichment and a lot of other things, not that all this money is the same, but it just doesn't seem like the most ethical financial decisions with the office in mind.
am I allowed to retort just out of curiosity?
No,
sorry,
stay
I'm very
silent, North. You're
I'm
just
very
here to be eye
debate-brained, so
candy
whenever I
for the
hear
rest of
something
us.
and I want to respond.
Please, go for it.
What do you think that Donald Trump has done that is, I guess, adhere to this idea of like limiting the power of like the executive branch, just in general? Like, do you have a specific
I
examples
was thinking
you can cite?
when they were talking about within like in the prompt, did it say he was trying to like reduce the
Well,
Yeah, I
federal
didn't think that was an
spending and
entailment.
Sure. So
the
here's
federal
the
budget? Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So with the attempt of not that necessarily it was successful, but you could say, or you could make the argument that they were attempting to do that and that it didn't work. Right.
it didn't just not work. It swung the other way. Like we've massively expand our budget, and then at the same time we're also cutting taxes, which I might agree that cutting some taxes is good for the economy, but we're in a debt crisis right now, and now the national debt has grown to a horrific degree. Uh, I think in terms of like cutting the federal budget, we've never run these such massive deficits before. Like it's monumentally terrible to our country.
Yeah,
Well,
I think the debt is atrocious and it just keeps ballooning. So it is bad all around. Yes.
It seems.
Do you
It
think that
seems
like? I'm sorry, go, Kyle.
Okay. I just wanted to reiterate your what you had said initially. It seems like you found a kernel of truth that might be expanded on for the sake of trying to make that straw man into a steel man. But it seems like you ultimately agree with North. Yeah, is that correct?
I ultimately agree that I don't think it did what it had been purported to do. Yes.
Again, it's that framing. It feels like it is not just it didn't do what it was purported to do. It massively failed and it swung the other direction. Like it's worse than if nothing was done. That's like my issue. Like I would have preferred
and
if
you
just,
can
like, nothing was
choose
done.
to use that language, but like I choose to speak in different language.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Right? Like I'm
choice
not
of our words
saying
are very
that.
important. Yeah.
It seems
Okay,
like
yeah, but like I'm not making that as big of a claim as that. I'm just saying it didn't work. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going past it because I don't know the ins and outs of it enough to make the claim as confidently.
Would you have been worried if in the counterfactual where Kamala got elected that a similar ballooning would happen, and in a way that might, say affect negatively business interests, in a way that would affect the economy negatively long term, or anything like that?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know that Kamala was going to like rectify the debt, the federal debt that you have. I don't know what her plan was specifically for that. I think it's just been growing. It is a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, an ever-growing mountain that seems to keep climbing higher and higher, regardless of which team the president plays for. Tali, I want to give you an opportunity to jump in on this topic. Do you have any anything to respond to regarding North's position or the prompt itself?
Well, bear with me. I'll try to keep it short. My analysis is more meta. I have like feelings about that exchange between Kay and North. No, I just think this is actually going to be like the crux of probably the disagreement between Kay and I, and North's right of center position is just like the degree. Like I can agree with the sentiment and direction of what you're saying, but I'm not going to use words like monumental and catastrophic yet. I'm like, my mind is open for these things to change, but I just think that like too many people based on projections, speak in very strong language that I'm like not ready personally to endorse. And I think, again, just to take that a little further, obviously we're going to get into it in this conversation, but I think that is the distinction that I've found in my conversations with North, one or two conversations that we've had a while ago now, is just if our goal is building or rebuilding a respectable, dignified, conservative Republican Party, I think that's going to necessarily require working with people who reluctantly supported Trump and people who enthusiastically supported Trump. So I think like so much of the focus on Trump being like the single most evil in the world, I think is going to unnecessarily polarize people within the movement who are going to be necessary to actually reviving or saving the Republican Party.
Yeah, and it was kind of just displayed here that maybe that sort of hyperbolic or superlative language drives a wedge in a place where, for the most part, you two were saying similar things. It's just North wanted to insist on it's catastrophic, and Kay's not as interested in using that kind of language. And that kind of drives a wedge where there could be.
And it doesn't mean that North is wrong.
Sure, yeah.
No. Yeah, it doesn't mean that North is wrong in his assessment of the degree, but that's the difference here.
So let's see. You used the word projection there, as in, can you elaborate on what you meant by like projection?
Projection, I meant like a forward-looking guess. I didn't mean like psychological projection or anything like that.
Okay, so I want to push back on that specifically. When I'm talking about what Donald Trump has done to the country, specifically in regards to like executive overreach and like fucking up the economy and the national debt, like these are things that have happened now. This is not like an outlook to the future, like, oh, Donald Trump is going to continue doing like tax cuts while also increasing like our spending, thus increasing the national debt. I'm not making an assertion that that's going to keep happening in the future. That's what we've seen from the start of his second term up until now, and what we've seen throughout his first term, is that we've seen historic rises in the national debt. I mean, I think it is a valid thing to say that Donald Trump was dealing with COVID at the end of his last term, and that's one of the reasons why he had massive amounts of national debt. But we still have to acknowledge that that debt did happen under his presidency, and that also happened, I believe, towards the beginning of his presidency as well. So there's a whole lot of factors that should be considered, and I'm not necessarily talking about any future, how should I say this, conspiracizing about what Donald Trump might happen. I just want to push back against that.
Sure. And I'm not even making the assertion of like conspiracy theorizing or anything like that. I think really what I'm saying is just in terms of like messaging, and this is like a similar critique that Kay and I have had about and to Connor also. It's like it's only depending on what your end goal is. If your goal is like, I speak the truth as I see it, which I think is a very respectable and admirable goal, then take that path. But if the goal is to rebuild the Republican Party that exists, also, if the goal is to start another party, an alternative to the Republican Party, then keep on in that direction. But if you feel like you are a conservative and that is where you belong and you want to fix that party, then I do think, again, like, it's gonna take, maybe, I don't know exactly where your hard lines are, and I guess we'll get to this when we talk about like who we see as politicians to be the torchbearers of the party. But if the litmus test is going to be like any level of support for Trump, then I think there's no way to move forward with that in the Republican Party.
To be clear, I'm not so much of a purity tester, in which I think that anyone who's ever previously supported Donald Trump should be like excluded from the Republican Party. I don't like I have an aversion to people that I think might privately hold disagreements with the president and are instead like biting their tongue and deciding to go along with him anyway. I'm yearning as like a young person for politicians who actually speak their mind and actually run on what they believe in instead of bending the knee to like a greater political force just because they want to remain in office. I don't think that's how politicians should be operating. But if we're talking specifically about like what are the type of Republican voters we want to be appealing to, I think it's a very basic thing for people to have to be able to acknowledge how much of a disaster Donald Trump has been for this nation and the Republican Party, and the fact that if we are to rebuild it into something better, I think at the very least there has to be, I'm not saying you have to like hold it over their head, but I think people should have to acknowledge that Donald Trump was not a good president. He did not affect any sort of what we would consider traditional conservative policies. And
how is that not a litmus test? You're saying, hold on, North. You said I don't want to hold it over their heads.
It's a very basic litmus test.
You said, but they have to at the bare minimum acknowledge that Donald Trump was a bad president and did nothing
that failed
good
as a
for
conservative
this
president. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's too high.
Limit their reach.
Yes. I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, you voted for Trump 3 times. I'm always gonna like shit on you for the rest of the time and all that. No, I'm not saying that. But just saying like,
no, but you're saying you have to admit you got it wrong.
President.
You're saying you have to admit that you got it wrong.
The facts acknowledge that Donald Trump was just a bad president, and I think he took the party and the country into a bad direction. I think that just should be acknowledged. Like, I think it's the same with let's take a historical example. Let's take Nixon, for example. After Nixon did Watergate, do you think people should have those who were like ardent Nixon supporters should have continued to say like, oh yeah, Nixon was innocent. He was set up. Watergate didn't happen. It was a Democrat hoax. Like, do you think that should have happened with like Nixon or anything like that? Or do you think the people that were like supporting the infringement of individual rights probably should not be the ones and continue to deny reality?
Well, let me try to ask you.
Treated on the same level as other people.
I think there's a difference between. I think I can partially agree with you here. I think there's a difference between people who say yes, Trump won the 2020 election, and people who say I like certain things that Trump did in one or both of his administrations. I like that he, whatever, did X, Y, or Z to push back against progressivism or whatever, semi-conservative thing that they can point to as an accomplishment. I agree. Like, I'm also very turned off and disgusted by people who are still engaging in election denialism from 2020. I agree with you there. And that's something I think maybe more, I'm going to agree with you more because I really do think that is insidious. But like that to me is a more reasonable purity test or whatever the word I was using before, then you must admit that Trump was a terrible president who did nothing good for our country and led our party astray. I think, like Kay said, you're just shrinking your base.
Like, do you think, like, on the whole, that's something that you can give? What do you say? Holistically, you could say that Donald Trump did that. Maybe you can say that, yeah, Donald Trump maybe did like some good things here or there. Like, you could say that Donald Trump did really well with like the Project Warp Speed during COVID-19, and that probably did a lot with making sure that our country didn't, have millions of more people dying. Like, I could acknowledge that, but holistically speaking, I think we can consider the fact that this, maybe not even like the first Trump presidency, but especially this term, I think probably should be acknowledged as, on the whole, bad for the country. I think that should be a very basic
I think it's a losing. I think it's a totally losing proposition. I think.
Well,
I don't think it's a losing proposition. I think that's something that can happen, but it's only a losing proposition if you're willing to indulge people to remain in their own, I guess, little bubbles. Like,
sorry, North. I don't mean to cut you off, but
I do want to put a
pin on that for now. we are in the middle of the segment. We will get back to this disagreement. It is interesting, but I'm so overjoyed.
Kyle's just mad that he was so small for this whole segment. That's why he wants to continue to get through it.
My head needs to expand once again. My brain is being smushed, and we have yet to trigger Tali and Kay as well as we've just triggered North. So, without further ado, I'd like to present to Tali and Kay, whoever would like to read the Scroll of the Straw Man. This one's designed especially for the both of you.
Okay, you want me to read it, Kay?
Sure, go ahead. I have to make it bigger.
Okay. Candace Owens was right. Even reasonable people are forced to leave the left because there are certain things that you just can't say, even if they're true. Like, men are not women. No government anywhere has the right to commit genocide, period, ever. Virtually every societal ill that we are facing today is because of women. And if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize.
Now, I don't know if Candace Owens is as emblematic for people who've left the left in terms of your opinion, but what do you think of that? How would you try to strengthen that position?
She's right in the first sentence that there are a lot of people, a lot of reasonable people who were quote unquote forced to leave the left, or even, I think, more. Well, and additionally, people who still consider themselves on the left, but are just abused by, libs and progressives alike on a daily basis because they say reasonable things in an adult setting that are considered too taboo. And I think this is a disservice to the left, to all of us, really, because when reasonable people are not willing to have these conversations in good faith, when the adults in the room can't have the conversation, you leave it to the crazy people, the actual bigots and the actual extremists to have the conversation instead. So there is a lot of truth to the very first sentence of what Candace said there.
Maybe not so much the rest of it, though.
Not so much the rest of it.
Perhaps not. Kate, anything to add there?
Can you put it back up for a second?
Sure. Those gorgeous, gorgeous words of one Candace Owens.
Okay, the virtually every societal ill that we are facing today is because of women. I don't know. I think maybe we could make some type of argument that what did we see? There was that poll or that study that came out that women are now more in teaching professions. So they're teaching, I guess, all of the young people, and it's the women's fault that all these kids are growing up to be woke, and the feminization of the workplace is the result of women being in there, and the we could say that the hiring quotas forcing to put women in roles that they have no business being in has led to the downfall of society.
Now, do you feel like you're stretching for those arguments, or are those things that
No, yeah, I'm stretching for okay. Yes, those are not my arguments.
Sure.
No. It was delivered so dry and well that it would have been
you
believable.
did that really good.
Yeah.
Clipper, cancel her again.
There are kernels of truth in there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it.
What do they say? Like the best lie is built on a kernel of truth.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
For what it's worth, as the resident lefties of the show, I think maybe even James might agree that the initial statement of the left is too stringent with purity tests is true. I do personally believe that.
Oh yeah.
I don't agree.
And like they say, as a progressive and a communist and a liberal, I get it from all sides. I can't speak to anybody honestly about politics without triggering someone. I have to gauge every conversation I'm in. I have to code switch. If I say liberalism, is that gonna hit right? Or are they gonna think I'm too far left now?
I think that's why you like talking. I think that's why you like talking to people right of center. Because it is just a more open. I don't know exactly what to pin it on. There are different things probably that you could pin it on.
Well, at least I know what things I'm going to get judged on. Yeah.
Sure.
I can have certain conversations with each side. The right, I can speak about American values. The left, that gets more complicated, especially the far left. It's almost impossible because they're just we'll cut it all off. We're starting anew with new philosophy.
They're ideologically pure. They got the talking points and the narratives, and they refuse to engage.
Yeah. It's mostly programming at this point, just internet programming, and it's not that it's based on nothing, but it's very hollow and very lowest common denominator. What fits in a tweet kind of communism, and it's unrealistic. It's against the real politics. If you want a communist movement, you're gonna have to convince people that makes sense, and none of them are doing that other than just assuming that their morals are correct and yelling at anyone who disagrees. just for
You know,
disagreeing.
if
Not
we
with
just
any.
tax all the billionaires, then society will be fixed.
I mean,
Tax all the billionaires,
I
and
do
then
think
we can get
billionaires are
the perfect
inherently
European socialist system, and it'll be cheaper than we have now. That will fix everything.
Well, if only
Thank
people
you.
would just hear about these policies, they would vote for them.
True.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've got a certain amount of agreement
I feel
on
like the
that
sarcasm
last point.
in my voice was lost there.
Well, no, you delivered it just fine, just fine. Well, this has been a great game of straw man, steel man.
Kyle,
now
you can
before
return to normal sized.
Yeah, I much appreciated. Oh, that's so much better. Ah, yes, my head's back to normal size once again. So, before we dive into the discussion that we've alluded to here, I do want to take a quick moment to point out that we are launching our creator stocks, and as our guest on the show, we have some creator stocks launched for North as well as Tali and Kay. Now, with Tali and Kay's permission, we have combined them into one stock that we call here talking
Two
shit.
women are equal to one man, so we had to do our part.
No, true.
We're double trouble.
Oh my goodness.
That's a way better way to put it. Double trouble, okay? Not
that
we're not doing any 3/5 compromises here. Relax.
Jesus.
Wait, 3/5. I thought that was
Yes.
that black folks?
Yes, it was.
All right,
Correct, Kyle.
It was.
You're mixing up your wokeisms, James. The point
Tally, you're
is
not black.
Oh,
Sorry.
no.
I identified.
I don't want to
as
get you in
black.
trouble.
I
don't wanna get you in
identified
trouble
as
again.
black on all of my state
Is
tests.
this what they call
Wait a minute.
transracial?
growing
Are
up.
we
Oh,
are we
goodness.
checking off another box? We have been accused of not having any BIPOC folks on the show. It would really help us out with if nobody else.
Kel,
Steven
come back.
Helicopter.
Hold on. I'm about to save us. Come here. You just got to show your face for a second.
Oh, so they know I'm real?
So they know you're brown.
Hi, welcome to Marketplace of
That's my
Ideas.
wife.
You've just helped us tick off another racial
The
box. My
Bechtel
goodness.
test and the BIPOC test. We're doing
what a
great
progressive
today.
episode here in the Marketplace
It was
of
a
Ideas. All
diversity
right.
hire.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's why I married her, in fact, so that I could pull out that card whenever necessary.
That's smart, and it lets you say more slurs too, which is
Exactly.
always fun.
Yeah.
So as you can
Yes.
see, we've got talking
Jesus.
shit, complete with a little poop emoji that is apparently setting the whole thing off. It's the only off kilter one, and I can't figure out how to fix it. We'll have to sort that out later. And we've also got North with the little compass there, both waiting to be invested in. So as you watch this show, you might decide, I like the ideas that one or the other of these folks are saying, and you might want to represent them in the marketplace of ideas and help take down the current reigning champion Non-Fawn, who has climbed ahead, claiming an entire 58.69% of the market share.
Wow.
We'll see
Needs
if
a little bit more.
Chip
Deserved.
right now.
That's
Deserved,
gonna lead to a
honestly.
stock
Yeah.
crash. I mean, Jesus, that's too dominant of a market share right there.
We do have a whale
Like,
who
South
might
Seas
dump
bubble
that
level
stock.
of inflation.
We'll see how that goes. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump into the meat of the discussion that we're planning here. So there is a bit of a divide on the right between the two of you, not so much perhaps representing the right as a whole, but as it pertains to the right moving forward, as we've got midterms coming up, we've got the 2028 presidential election, and there is this discussion of, well, there's two. One is, how does the right move forward? And then the second one, which is I think what James and I are especially interested in, is how do we on the left persuade you to vote for our candidate this time around? Should we find ourselves a right-wing candidate who is adhering a little too closely to the MAGA stench that has been permeating through the Republican Party? So, why don't we open it up?
We're gonna have a divide. I just want to state explicitly, my concern on the right is the post MAGA stench already. The people who are trying now to it's the post-liberal faction of the right and the post-liberal faction of the left that concerns me way more. That Trump at this point, for all of the things that North believes, and I'm sure this is going to like trigger him, but he's establishment at this point. You know, like it's the populist Republicans who are saying that Trump is now, you know, the elite problem here. So my concern is like someone who loves Trump is not going to be a reason for me not to vote for them. Yeah.
Would you
To be
consider...
clear, we might not disagree as much as you might think, because I am also concerned about the post-liberal right within the Republican Party, the populist right as well. Because I think you could probably consider them like two separate factions, like the Nick Fuentes types as well as like the populist, types.
You can always break down,
Yeah,
even
you
within
can
the
always break
post-liberal,
that down.
Would you consider?
I am concerned about this, especially because Donald Trump is 2028. He's not going to be legally allowed to run again. We'll see if he adheres to that. Trump doesn't really have a good track record with following the Constitution. So here's to hoping that the midterms and the 28 election is going to go through. But yeah, I am concerned about like the populist right.
North, what do you think is the likelihood that we will not have midterms in 2026 because of Trump trying to
less than 2%, I would say. Less than 2%. But the fact that it's even at that level is concerning. Because I think with like any other president in like the 20th and the 21st century, it's been like 0%. So the fact that we've gotten to like less than 2% is fucking wild.
Here's a counter question.
That's like a problem, right?
But I think if you honestly think that it's less than 2%, then you should frame that when you're saying it too.
I acknowledge it when you asked me about it. I mean, I think the fact that it's a chance of it not happening is concerning at all. The fact that there is a chance, right?
Well, not to go Pisco on your ass, but yes, I acknowledge that it's like logically possible, right? If that's what you mean.
Logically possible. Like, do you think that there was a chance of Obama running for a third term in 2016?
No.
I
don't think Trump's going to run either.
A Bush.
I think there's no chance that Trump runs again.
Odds makers are putting
it at
2% that he gets the nomination of the Republican Party in 2028.
Nailed it.
Where is that? Like Kalshi?
I believe that's where I found it. Either that or here. Let's pull it up again. Betting odds Trump 20. Oh boy.
What gives you the confidence and the faith that Donald Trump is not going to try to run again? Just out of curiosity.
He's too old.
He's too old. That's it.
If he were 20 years younger, then I would say he would try. I'll give you. If he were 20 years younger,
you think he might even try,
even
if he's too old to like live through it?
No.
So here we've got.
But that's just me. I just don't see it as like a reasonably possible thing right now.
Here we've
if he were younger,
I'm just wondering what your reason is. Sorry, I'm being a little pedantic with dissecting your reasoning, but I feel like people don't explain enough like why they believe a certain thing. Yeah, so I expect more dissecting of your thought process in the future.
That's what we're here.
Well, here we've got Trump sitting at 2% here on Polymarket. We can check Kalshi as well. Let's see, what is it? Oh, it's just gonna isolate it to those. Let's see if we drop it down. Are we not showing
Control
Donald Trump
F.
Senior at
Look
all?
up Donald Trump.
Control F. Donald
J. Trump 4.1%.
4%.
Okay, so a little bit of a discrepancy there. But either way, it's not at 0, which is not where I would prefer it. But let's set aside Donald Trump for now. There are several candidates who are, or several people who are currently in office who are either not getting, they lost their primaries already, like Louisiana Senator Bill's name I just forgot. Perfect timing. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, Bill. Yes.
Did
you see that Lindsey Graham clip that played of him talking?
Bill
about
Cassidy.
him?
Bill Cassidy.
Yeah, Bill Cassidy.
There's a Lindsey Graham clip. You said?
Yes, it is relevant to this discussion actually. Look up NBC Lindsey Graham.
Put in the wrong order. Oh, spelled Lindsey wrong too. Is it this clip about him talking about Strait of Hormuz?
No.
Bill Cassidy's lost. Here we go.
Bill
This is probably
lost,
it.
Yeah.
Shall we watch the clip or a portion of it, or do you just want to cite something that was said here?
It's a pretty short clip. It should be the only relevant it should be like within the first 30 seconds to 1 minute. So.
All right. Well, James, with your permission, I'd like to share my screen for the benefit of the show, so that we can hear the audio.
Beautiful.
And maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll even go back to full screen since we've got it popped out. There we are. All right. Let me know when I'm good to play it.
We're good.
Everybody
right.
joined in. Let's do it.
Oopsie daisy.
Losing his primary in Louisiana, you worked closely with Senator Bill Cassidy on a range of different issues, including a plan to replace Obamacare. He, of course, voted to convict President Trump back in 2021 in the impeachment trial. Now he's lost his seat. Are you glad that Senator Cassidy is no longer going to be your colleague, Senator?
No, I like Bill. I thought he was a great senator, but he made a political decision. He voted to impeach President Trump, which would have ruined his political life. He could never run for office again. Massey's on the ballot Tuesday. He votes against Trump all the time. What's the headline? Trump strong. Those who try to destroy Trump politically, stand in the way of his agenda, are going to lose. Bill made a decision. What would LBJ do? Is it natural for a politician to go after people who try to destroy their political life? So Bill Cassidy's lost because he tried to destroy Trump. Massey's going to lose because he's trying to destroy the agenda. You can disagree with President Trump, but if you try to destroy him, you're going to lose, because this is the party of Donald Trump.
Well, there you have it. And it's not unique to Bill Cassidy. He's trying to oust Thomas Massey. He's also already basically forced Tom Tillis to not seek re-election. Also, I believe someone who you're a fan of, North, Don Bacon, is also not seeking re-election.
Yes,
Do you know
Don
if that's
Bacon will not be running again.
Is that related to the Trump situation, or is that some independent thing?
Don Bacon specifically, as I understand it, he's very, very old.
Sure.
I think he was on the track to looking to retire anyway. And I think what gives him the benefit to being able to criticize Donald Trump is the fact that he's not seeking re-election again, which is very sad. Because I would like him to remain within the party in order to help be part of like a beacon to push for a better standard of politician within the party and within Congress.
Well, it does establish.
Or I guess the House of Representatives. Sorry.
Sure, it establishes a through line, and I wonder if this maybe speaks to Tali's point that it might not be worth it even to be concerned about whether or not somebody is being too obsequious to Trump when it comes to supporting the policies that you ultimately care about. I don't know if, Tali, maybe you would rephrase that differently than I just did, but what's your thoughts on this requirement, seemingly, that if you want to play ball in the Republican Party right now, you have to go for Trump?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I realized I was muted myself. I think it's wrong. Like there's some truth to what Graham was saying, which is like, and this I guess sort of this fits in with our broader conversation, which is like, if you fight against every effort put forward by the administration and the party, like at what point are you, only nominally a member of that party, right? I don't like the pressure coming from the top. This is a very Trump thing. I don't think that it should work that way. I don't think I think to North's point, I want politicians to be able to sort of vote their conscience and vote their constituents and things of that nature. But if part of what you're saying is like, if you believe that Republicans are going to legislate better, or that Republicans are going to have a better effect on the country, then yeah, it makes in order to get those things through, then you need Republicans to have power. And if Trump is in power, then yeah, you sort of make the best of what you've got. I guess it depends on like how partisan you are to a certain extent.
I think it's pretty natural
the
for
Milligan dialogue.
Say that again. I spoke over you.
The Milligan dialogue. I'm asking guys Talibot specifically.
I can't hear the word you're saying, but
the Milligan dialogue. Milean. Yeah, it's a
Malayan. Okay.
The Milligan dialogue is a piece of history as well as part philosophy, talking about this idea between idealism versus realism. Essentially, the I guess the lesson of the dialogue is that you can either have morals, or you can maintain your ideals, or you can maintain power. And that should you be the one that like loses while maintaining your ideals, or give up all ideals that you have but gain power? I think the answer to this was what happened in the 2016 election. The Republican Party decided to forsake its principles and follow Donald Trump into the 2016 election. They gained that power, and they continued to forsake the ideals that they used to believe in order to continue to gain that power. I think it is important to a degree that compromise needs to be made in order to gain power. I don't think anyone will ever deny that. The problem is that we've forsaken our ideals so much that I don't even know what the Republican Party even stands for anymore under Donald Trump. What policies are we running for? What ideals are we fighting for? It certainly isn't what it was before Donald Trump in the 2016 conservative area. It certainly isn't what he's been running on. The no new wars president, the we're going to go line by line and fix the budget president, we're going to defend like your individual rights president, like all of these things, the limited government president, like all of these things have been infringed on. So what exactly is there to compromise? What's there left to compromise on when we've abandoned everything? What are the principles that we can gain by working with? We'll call them like the Trump. I would call them sycophantics.
Yeah, I agree with like pretty much everything you just said, unless I like forgot something super offensive to me that you just said. I think I agree with all of that. I too, like I run this tightrope. I've said this before. I apologize if I said it to this group of people, but like I both don't regret my vote for Trump in 24, and I wish Hillary won in 2016. I think Trump has done, and it's hard to know exactly where to pin the blame, because in 2016, when I was super anti-Trump and everything, I didn't understand where the tens of millions of people who supported him were coming from. So that desire, that mood was obviously already existed. That energy was waiting to be capitalized on. But I also am dismayed by what Trump has done to the Republican Party, and also just to polarization in this country. I mean, the left has gotten worse under Trump in equal and opposite ways, perhaps, to the way that the right has deteriorated. So I agree with you. And I also don't think that we need to, especially in come 2028, when this is truly a post-Trump time, I agree that I don't think that I know I have no part in this, but I don't think people need to make concessions to the Trump sycophants. I agree with you there, but I don't think that it should be a priority to purity test, I guess, in that way, as I already said earlier, so I won't repeat myself.
I think, like, if you want to talk about a disagreement in policy, I'm willing to talk about a disagreement in policy. In fact, I'm willing to compromise on policy that meant that we have like some sort of common goal that we can work towards. But like the purity test that I would like to have is just an acknowledgement that what Donald Trump has done to our nation has been bad. I don't think it's very strong. I don't think it's that like demanding of someone to like say that, yeah, Trump in his second term, that was pretty bad for the country. I think it's a very low bar to set to building something better, because once we can like get past that, once we can acknowledge where we failed as a party, where we failed in the compromising of our ideals and our beliefs and our policy, then we can move forward and create the new right, the better right, the right that actually has a rooting in like intellectualism and in good policy decision.
Wait,
Okay,
so can I just ask you a question? Do you mean like for politicians, or do you mean for the average voter? I just want to clear that up before I go further.
So this is an important distinction. I think if someone were to support building the new right and they were unwilling to like support Donald Trump, or unwilling to like disavow Donald Trump, I'm much less how should I say this? maybe not even like vitriolic, but much less energized in getting them to like, I demand that you denounce Donald Trump. For the follower, if they're going to support my political project, like, even if you don't believe everything I say, that's fine. It's more so I'm concerned about the politicians, the thought leaders, the media influencers, the people that are on Fox News, the people that are writing the books, the people that are debating college students out in universities. That's who I'm primarily concerned about. Those are the people that we need to demand more of.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the average voter, but it is also the people speaking, like, who have any amount of influence or who try to have influence and are talking to other people. But I just want to say, like, you can recognize the amount of polarization that there currently is and the costs and how hard it is to, I think, maybe say these things out loud. And I think, like, ideally, yes, it shouldn't be that way. And people should just be able to see things for what they are. But the camps are so entrenched that it becomes a lot harder psychologically. And we can make of that what we will. But that's just kind of like a practical reality of like how people's minds work. That I think, I don't know, maybe if you lessen it a little, and you don't have to, but in general, if the party in general lessens it a little and you can attract a broader group in, I think with time people can come to see more of the problems once I think some of that polarization is dealt with. But I think right now people are so loath to give anything because it gets weaponized so quickly.
The problem with people giving up something is that they don't feel, you're right, there is polarization, but they don't feel that there's anyone that they can turn to, right? So if you wanted to become like a liberal, or if you wanted to become like a leftist, there is already like this community that exists that you can like go into. Or if you want to become a conservative, there's like or even like what you call like a post-right, some would even say like fascist. Like there's communities that people can go to, but for like the center right, I would argue there's no real community. If you want to speak out about this, you're basically treading your own path. I feel like that's what I'm basically doing, and I would argue that Connor is also doing as well. There's not that much of a community that you can like rely on. There's no like this, like with me and Connor, maybe like Brad Palumbo, I guess we could talk to like, share our woes together. But even then, he isn't like really fostering that much of a community. It's very difficult because you feel isolated. But if you want to change that, if you want to change that polarization to allow a more moderate position to exist, then you have to start somewhere to create that environment that makes people more comfortable to say, yeah, I was wrong, and there's these people who are going to support me, and they're going to, help me out.
Well, I would criticize you and say that you've almost stood as a barrier to that against the people we're speaking to right now with the way that you've wanted this sort of dramatic upheaval and escape from the values and everything that the Trump administration has been putting forth. Like it seems like you and Kay were almost on the same wavelength. You just wanted it to go to 8, 9, or 10 on the criticism scale, where it's like I think they were willing to say, yes, I can understand how these things might be a problem, but they weren't ready to project it as strong as you are.
Well, and to that point, to hold Kay and Tali to a higher standard because they are people trying to create content on the internet and influence other people's ideas.
Tali, your response and what you were going to say.
Yeah. Well, just to that point, James, like, I think I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure the same goes for Kay. Like you said, you feel like you're kind of on an island and there's no space for you. I feel aligned with your goal of reshaping, again, a more dignified, intellectual, actually conservative Republican Party. So yeah, to James's point, it really is this like battling, and maybe it's unfair. Maybe Kay and I are totally wrong and captured in this way and feeling, our own psychological effects plus social pressures and whatever. But so even if all of that is true, if we want to live in reality and humans are prone to react in this way and you want to make a difference, then you have to take that into consideration. And I think I said this to you, North, the one time that we spoke, I think it was even like a private Discord call or whatever. I'm not blowing up anyone's spot here. But I said, like, even if you're right and there's a person who is going to be pushed away because of like the cognitive dissonance of feeling like they have to in some way, then you're losing that person for no good reason when they might totally be on board. And to take that further, or rather just move forward, in response to what you were saying, I don't think the only way to do this is to get people to acknowledge that Trump was bad. If you can frame a positive message, especially because, to your point, Republicanism has really changed pretty dramatically in the last 10 years, but that means there's hundreds of years before that of precedent. And I think like these conservative, that's still in a lot of people. So if you can just speak to that part of these conservative oriented people and try to frame a positive message of what you want the Republican Party to look like, I think that's going to be more appealing and less polarizing within the group of people who, again, some of them held their nose and voted for Trump, some of them enthusiastically, but aren't so enthused by what he's doing now, but they still are never going to give that concession. They might see that as a concession to the left to say that Trump was a terrible president. And so I just think, again, even if we are the ones being irrational and unfair, if that is a natural human response, then I think you have to at least take that into consideration. And again, you might say that the truth is like your highest objective, and then I guess fair enough, but I think it's going to be hard to coalition build like that.
If I may,
and I just want to add one quick thing, quick.
Sure,
I am also Canadian, so I do interact with politics and American politics, like from a slightly like 30,000 foot overview. So while I am like talking about it and making content about it and talking about the political culture and all that, I am also not an American. So I don't want to like portray myself as something I'm not. Not to say that you shouldn't hold me to whatever standard you want to, but just it probably is a good thing to understand or to know about me.
Okay.
Well, don't worry. We will not hold your Canadianness against you here in the Marketplace of Ideas, except for maybe James. Even though my understanding is that Canada is supposed to be a communist hellhole that James might appreciate.
In some ways, their healthcare. You got the healthcare.
There was one more point that I wanted to throw on the pile here. So, and
I don't even get a hallway. Okay.
Goodness. In regards to media figures and politicians who have made apologies for Donald Trump, or that is to say, have apologized for their associating with Donald Trump and will have admitted on camera that he's been bad. Number 3 in the odds for the Republican presidential nominee, Tucker Carlson, is both a media figure and potentially a politician who has done exactly that. North, it doesn't sound like that's who you were talking about when you were making the allusions to somebody who might.
No, Tucker Carlson is a foreign agent grifter who should be purged from all political discussion and not be taken seriously as anything but a talking point of Putin. Like literally, I see Putin's arm and I see it like slithering up his asshole and then like peeping out of Tucker Carlson.
Oh, it's more than just Putin's. Yeah. There's like 15 arms up there, man.
Oh, it's true. It's like Iran too. And,
he's being fisted by half the world right now.
Yeah, and it's the world that wants America to be destroyed, basically.
Yes.
So if that's the only option you have for a Republican politician or media figure who has been so loud about decrying Donald Trump, where do you go with that, North? If that's who you're left with, are you willing to be more pragmatic about this?
In terms of being pragmatic, the most likely candidate that's probably would be best for the Republican Party if they could win would be Ron DeSantis. I think that would be the one that would move us into like the better direction. I have personal disagreements, I think, with Ron DeSantis. I think he's a little bit too bought into the culture war bullshit. But I think he does actually speak his mind, and we would know what we'd be electing. That being said, I'm currently of the position.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that is true. He has no aura. He has no
negative riz.
He's getting mogged by everyone.
You got to get him on Vyvanse.
Gotta get him bigger boot inserts so he's taller.
I need to get on Vyvanse, to be honest. I'm not on any ADHD medication as much as it might feel like I am.
Caffeine is mine.
But to be honest, I think this might be a little bit controversial, but I've said this before, and I think I'm still correct on this. I think the Republican Party needs to lose in 28. Especially if it's J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio that wins the nomination. Some people, I know, this is
where I think you're so
never
wrong.
Trumpers who disagree with me on Marco Rubio, but I think that anyone associated with this administration needs to be absolutely destroyed, and then that will give the opportunity for a principled candidate to be able to rise in the 2032 election.
So you don't think the left is a threat?
This is hold on, but really, to that point, North, what you just said was kind of my actually was a large part of my rationale for voting for Trump in 2024 was the Dems are on a really bad path. They need to lose so that they will come to Jesus and realize where they've gone astray, and they're going to come back more moderate and reasonable. And they haven't. I realized that I was doing unintentional accelerationism, and I think that was unwise, and I only see this type of thing tumbling down in that direction. So listen, if it's Tucker Carlson in 2028 on the top of the ticket for the Republicans, then I do hope the Republicans lose. But not if it's Marco Rubio. I mean, I think that is just, again, that's like just purity testing because he was part of the Trump administration. Because he's tied.
The problem with Marco Rubio is that at this current point, as I understand him, there's nothing at all that makes me think that, like, I don't know what he's going to be running on. He's flip-flopped on almost every single position that he's had. He's now talking about he's like lying about like the reason why we're going into like the Iran. Actually, I think he was actually truthful with it, like what he was saying with Israel was the reason why we got involved with the Iran conflict initially. But he went from being the anti-Trump, Donald Trump is going to destroy the Republican Party, Donald Trump is going to destroy the nation if he gets reelected, to kissing the ring and giving up on all of his principles in order to be part of this administration. What should I trust on Marco Rubio for him to be consistent?
How do we know he gave
again in
all
28?
Of his principles? What are all of his principles that he gave up to be part of this administration?
I think he gave up on adhering to the Constitution of the United States. I think that's what he did. He thought that we are going to violate the Constitution of the United States. We're going to violate all of our rules and all of our norms in order to gain some semblance of power in this administration. I think that is exactly what happened. And this leads into my point about wanting the Republican Party to lose in 28 and some sort of like accelerationism, which I guess you could describe it in a way. It is accelerationism, but for very good reason. You ever hear of the
accelerationists always think they're doing it for a very good reason. That's like that's how you get to accelerationism. Is believing that it is so important that you would rather your political enemies win in the short term because it is that consequential. To use all your words, monumental and catastrophic.
Monumental, exactly.
That's the only way you get to accelerationism.
The triangle,
believing that yes, it is the most
you know what I'm
important.
talking about, right? Like at the top, there's like food, shelter. And then you keep going down: food, clothing, etc., etc.
Infotainment.
It's the same with
right
politics.
On the bottom.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we're the base of the pyramid. We're the base of the pyramid. The biggest part.
It's the same with politics as well. At the top of our politics, it's in the United States. It should be respecting the Constitution of the United States of America. And then from there, we can get to our disagreements of what we agree on, like policy and what should be best for the nation. But like at the very top, the thing that we should that should be our ultimate litmus test is, are we following and respecting our Constitution? And if we aren't, then I think that even if I agree with like the policy outcomes of like what a politician is like trying to achieve, I think we should hold to our guns and make sure that our Constitution is respected. I think above all else, that is what needs to be done. And I think this is an example with Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. If either one of them or a combination of the two try running in 28, we need to make sure that the candidate that respects the Constitution the most is the one that wins. And then afterward, we can start pushing for our pro-Constitution candidate. Now, I'm saying that with the understanding that Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance or some combination of the two are going to be the ones that are going to win in 28. Now, if a more principled candidate who's distanced from this administration were to win the primary 28. I would say fuck the Democrats, fight like hell to make sure that principled candidate is the one that wins. But right now, I just don't see that as like the most likely option. So this is what I'll be advocating for. And you don't even need. Sorry, I know I'm continuing on this. You don't even need to vote for the Democrats. You just abstain. It's not that hard. You can just abstain. I might. I guess depending on how crazy the Democratic candidate is, I might abstain. I mean, if it's Gavin Newsom, I think that's reasonable. I think he's reasonable enough that I would probably vote for him. But if it were like AOC, I'd probably just abstain. With the understanding that probably the Democrats are going to win.
What if the candidate on the left is also? What if the candidate on the left is campaigning on
destroying the U.S. Constitution? Then I'm going to take it as like who's going to destroy the U.S. Constitution the least, or or if there's ever any viable third-party candidate, which there almost never is.
Because right
but
now,
if there was, then I would support that candidate. But
like the hottest thing in the lib circles right now is to talk about court packing and all of this stuff, right? So
I'm well aware. Yes, I've had this discussion with Pisco. I've had this discussion with Destiny about specifically like norm breaking and like reinterpreting the Constitution and all that. Like this is conversations I've had with the other streamers in this space. I can disagree with them. I think they're way wrong on what they believe in, but I don't think the politicians of the Democratic Party are currently advocating for massive constitutional.
Kamala, who is obviously running in 2028, just had like some Q&A session or whatever, where she said we need to be in the no bad ideas brainstorming phase. And that includes talking about court packing. And that includes talking about redistricting. And that includes adding DC and Puerto Rico as states. Is court
packing unconstitutional?
That's what I was going to ask.
No, it's not inherently. But
yes.
Okay, sure. But
I disagree with court packing. I've argued against court packing. Like I think it's unhealthy for our democratic system. But I don't think it's unconstitutional. I don't think it's saying, oh, we're going to go pack the court. I don't think there's anything to the degree that we've seen with like the Trump administration violating our individual rights and violating the U.S. Constitution. Like what do you want me to say? I mean, it's just not to the same degree.
Well,
again, I think this is all about degree, really. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Sure. And as far as degrees, we've got several degrees away from Donald Trump and his administration. We've got several people who might fit your preferences as far as somebody who's willing to speak their mind, adhere to the Constitution. Ron DeSantis was called out earlier. He's number 4 right now, and the odds show him to be pretty low likelihood. Is that somebody, though, that the three of you agree would be an ideal candidate for the Republicans?
Would be the most viable candidate, yeah.
Of the ones.
Yeah, I wouldn't say ideal.
To achieve our project, or my project, that is. I guess we share the same project and wanting to build the
I prefer Rubio.
Philosophy to go
you would prefer Rubio, which is a sticking point for North because he feels that Rubio has abandoned his principles by going with the Trump administration. Is that a fair summation, North?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair summation.
What about UK? How do you feel
What if he started criticizing the Trump administration pretty hard?
If you were to like basically call out all the bullshit that they were doing right now, I think it would definitely cause me to see him in a different light. I would still probably judge him negatively for him kissing the ring with his administration and going along with all the unconstitutional bullshit with ignoring Congress and all that. But it would certainly make me see him in a better light. Sure. It would probably make me reevaluate.
What if you went all the way and you had the full explanation of, I just got in there because I knew it was going to be a shit show, and I knew that I could get in there and pull the most important levers when I could to prevent harm and promote American values as best I could. Like Marco Rubio says,
he's not going to do that in 28.
Look, he's got to be one hell of an explanation. That's true. He's probably not going to do that. Well, but it would have to be one hell of an explanation.
This whole conversation we've been having about, turning on Trump, to me it's not about if, it's about when. And I think there's going to be a moment at some point where And it could be tomorrow. It could be anything. Like we on the left have been saying it any day now. Any day now.
No, that's where you guys are delusional. That's where, respectfully, I like you a lot. Well, but that's where I think you guys are delusional. That's not coming. That's not coming now. It's not coming by 28 either. Frankly, I think like if Rubio runs in 28 and loses, or maybe if he doesn't run at all and he's doing a little more long game, maybe there's a book that comes out where he makes this explanation, and it's still not going to be that cutting because he also does not want to alienate all of the people who either reluctantly or enthusiastically voted for Trump. But I think it's possible that, yeah, he might do some of that. I wanted to be an adult in the room and I was able to do, X, Y, or Z. And, but I don't think he's going to be railing against Trump in 28. I don't think that's going to get you very far in a Republican primary for 28.
Well, if conditions are the same, but you guys, who was the anti-commie guy?
I think there's very little, unfortunately, that could, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, like,
who was the big anti-Red Scare guy that kind of had America by the balls for, he was doing all the investigations? MacArthur.
Oh yeah.
McCarthy. He had a similar sort of rest on the control of the American mind and conversations until one day when somebody stood up in the Senate and said, "Have you no dignity or have you no honor?" or one of these things. And even all of these latent sentiments of maybe we're going too far. I get that the communist threat is real, and we've seen some real evidence of them being here, but these sentiments slowly build, and I feel like we're seeing that build finally happen with people's disappointment in Israel, the economy not panning out, all these little mini lies that keep happening. Like I know he's been Teflon Don for a decade now, for his whole in life, but that can only last so far. I think we could see if the economy goes worse and he doesn't have a good excuse to blame Democrats. Last time he had COVID, and that's fair. But I think all of these issues, the economy, it hasn't gotten better. Grocery prices did not come down. Based off of what he promised us and what we're getting, and then the war in Iran, which it's complicated, but there's a lot of dissatisfaction there, and then especially Israel, and then the Epstein. There's just so many mounting things that I don't. When in his 2016 term, the economy was at least thriving. We were actually still a hot economy after the regrowth from the 2008 crash. Like, there was a lot of arguments to be made where the economy he inherited, you could say, well, it was him, or at least feel that way as a voter. And I think since it's not just 1 year with 2020 COVID this time, it's people are feeling the pressures of the economy and the negative things that he's been turning out. He's Teflon Don, but that might not last forever. I don't think it's going to. I think if he keeps screwing up, he's going to see his moment where people turn. And at that point, Rubio can go out.
I agree with you, but it won't, or even for the entire, like, I guess people's attitudes towards the party, you won't get enough people who will buy into, I guess, that type of change unless the Democrats and the left have like this positive aspirational message and goal that people want to buy into, and right now they don't have it. So there has to be something big enough that people can join in or see as a viable alternative. People aren't gonna just like flail and leave and go nowhere. There has to be something that comes up.
Yeah, well, I think to Kay's point, and I don't know if this is your point, but maybe relatedly, I think like people have a short memory. Like there have been, to your point, James, there have been several things even since his, the start of his second term, that the sort of post-right people that I'm talking about, the sort of post-liberal that groups a lot of people that are kind of ideologically distinct, but they've been saying every time something happens, this is it. This is the end for Trump. Look, this is where the Republicans finally, and it doesn't happen. Maybe it shows in the numbers for a little bit, and then it kind of normalizes after that. But what I will amend what I said previously, I actually think kind of blacked out the 2020 Republican primary, but actually I think people will. It's sort of the nature of a primary is several people at least are going to be trying to distinguish themselves from Trump and from the Trump administration, and that did happen even in 2020. So let me be a little more optimistic.
24, right? Because 2020 was
well,
his
no,
first
after
re-election.
2020, people were distancing themselves from Trump.
Okay.
2020.
They wouldn't have had a Republican primary in 2020.
I don't think there was that much of a contention.
Okay, 24.
Yeah. Because he was incumbent
like
in 2020.
Like
early,
people campaigning
I guess.
after, because this is like after J6 is when people really started trying to distance themselves from Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's when Liz Cheney, Adam
to.
Kinzinger, all those. I mean, a lot of people.
Well, even like Rubio, I think was talking about like how bad Donald Trump was
at the time.
You had this smaller group of people coming out and ready to stand, but it just wasn't time. He had too much control over the hearts and minds of the American people, etc. Like he still had too much. Yeah.
Did anyone ever watch? Was it the Last Republican? I think that's what it was by Adam Kinzinger. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
There's something very interesting in there in which he talked about how it wasn't necessarily Trump that was the one that caused like him to like stay in power. It's the fact that the politicians chose to like bite the bullet and not like distance themselves. They allowed Trump to remain in like the Republican Party instead of like exiling him when they had the opportunity to do so, because they thought it might be like slightly politically inconvenient, which I think that was like a massive mistake that they did, and I think they should be chastised for doing so. It's a compromising of one's ideals.
Kay and Tali, are you? How familiar are you with Adam Kinzinger, and do you have any strong feelings about him? If so,
not very, and no.
What do you know about Adam Kinzinger? Just out of curiosity.
Not much beyond like I've never taken any time to really like learn about him. I know his name and his face. That's about it.
Okay. Yeah, he's just a former Republican congressman who was part of the January 6th committee, and he also voted to convict Donald Trump, or to impeach Donald Trump, and then he was expelled from the Republican Party, I believe, in a vote along with Liz Cheney, and then he supported Kamala in the 24 election along with Liz Cheney. So. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you for that refresher. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like he sorry, go ahead.
This is unrelated. When you say in the back of my mind, when you say post-liberal people on the right, I'm assuming you're mean like capital L liberalism, right? Like they don't believe in democracy and individual rights and private property.
Okay, sorry, I gotta interject on that. It's lowercase L when you're talking about the idea. Uppercase L is
always know it as
it has to be a name. It has to be a party.
I will continue to call it uppercase L.
Counterpoint says this all the times, and it makes me want to unsubscribe, even though I love his content. Just every time someone does this,
I will continue to call it uppercase L.
Nitpicky. You will do that. Continue though. Pardon the interruption.
And then one other thing: do you think the Republicans are going to win in the 2028 election?
I have no idea who's going to be up on either side of that ticket. So I have literally no idea.
Like based purely off of vibes, like right now, like no statistics. Let's say it was a JD Vance, Marco Rubio ticket versus Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg ticket. Like. Who's going to win based off of like the circumstances that we had now? Assuming like, let's say the election literally happened tomorrow, who would win that presidential election?
This is what we've got on the odds makers. We've currently got
tomorrow.
Yeah, if that election were to happen tomorrow, who do you think would win?
I don't think Gavin. I don't know if Gavin Newsom could win tomorrow. But that's just me. And it's probably Newsom, like a bit of like
would beat out JD Vance, Marco Rubio.
Yeah, I think
really
Vance has a
coin toss.
They've got an
but I think
advantage
JD Vance has more of an edge than Gavin Newsom does right now.
Name recognition and people's assumptions about
viable
them.
Candidate on the Democratic Party that they would pick.
I think he is the most viable candidate.
As of now, before people start discussing
Gavin Newsom
things.
could win against JD Vance if they were to run tomorrow?
I don't know. It's hard for me because, like, I think, like, I understand, again, like, gas for me to get right now is like $5.26 a gallon. It's really obscenely high.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I get what you're trying to get at here, right? People are like generally annoyed with the Iran war. So I don't know though, because back to my point earlier about like everyone wants to point to these things and say, see, even his base is becoming disillusioned. But I don't think that is maybe it would depress turnout enough that like the Dems could win. But to me, it's not obvious that it would be a blowout. I think the people who are talking like this about like how obviously and clearly Trump's approval, and I know there are polls for all of these things, but yeah, I don't think it would be like so obvious a blowout if the election were held tomorrow.
Well, and we've got the situations where there's been early elections and they're flipping 15, 20 points from pro-Trump areas. I think generic, if you take away the names and you just put generic Democrat versus generic Republican, that makes it a lot closer and maybe even Democrat favored. Probably, I would guess Democrat favored. And I think a lot of that is, ironically, you said it. I don't think these people just go away. I think motivated voter turnout has been the major decider for the last 10 years, and yeah. I think the Republican side isn't as motivated. They are depressed, and I think the left is super
you're out
motivated.
Of power. Yeah.
There's that general tendency.
Yeah, I think that's true.
The incumbent
you can be anti-motivated too, right? Depending on who's on the ticket, like it can make the opposite side come out much more, right? So it really would depend on the attitudes.
Yeah, the left might benefit from if we just elected parties, because generic left would win over, hey, here's an actual person. Oh, well, the left hates him. Or here's a lefty person. Oh, the center libs hate him. And so that's going to eat our party for a while. So I think given that, it does make it a lot closer. And as much as people want to say it's going to be easy, I think the left's best shot is to run somebody like Newsom, who's center but can message to the right niche issues on the left, like Israel, Palestine, general economic issues, while coming across more center and normal than Kamala managed to.
So
I think that's
the way that I'm vibing out right now is currently we're seeing an advantage for the Democrats. Guys. I think it's purely off vibes. If you ask me to substantiate this, I'm not going to be able to. Just what I've seen from talking to normal people and talking to people online and seeing the news and all that. Because of that, if you knew that, let's say you knew that the Republican candidate in 28 was going to lose, would you rather have like the Trumpian candidate nominated then, just so that they can get blown out of the water, versus having someone who you would prefer, that being Marco Rubio, to run? Like, would you rather have JD Vance lose than Marco Rubio lose in a 28 election?
Would I rather JD Vance lose than yes? I would rather JD. Well, hold on. Sorry. You mean specifically within the frame of the right? So I would rather a JD Vance lose than a Marco Rubio lose to a Democrat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think we agree on that I would rather have JD Vance lose. This is also part of like my accelerationism, in which I actually kind of secretly hope, because I think the Democrats are going to win in 28, that we nominate JD Vance just so that he gets blown the fuck out of the water. I think this probably should be part of the calculation as well. That it's not just about like who do we nominate to win because we like their policies. It's if we have an expectation that this is going to be like Kennedy versus Nixon, that we want our Nixon to be, someone who's not going to be politically viable, or that we disagree with, so that their policies are discredited.
Okay, so I get what you're saying insofar as the part that I agreed with, which is I think it's worse for my vision of a future Republican Party if Marco Rubio loses than if JD Vance loses. I think Marco Rubio is significantly closer to the vision of Republican Party that I want to see. But this sounds to my ears on the first pass as hypocritical of you, because your whole point is that like people should not be compromising their values in such a way, and that you should always essentially be doing a lesser of two evils calculation here. But you think that Marco Rubio would be the better nominee, but because you want Republicans to lose, you want it to be a more Trumpian
No, well, I was
nominee.
trying to get in your worldview of Marco Rubio being better than JD Vance.
Well, so but then let me ask you right now.
I'm assuming my assumption is there's going to be a combination of the two on a ticket. It'll be Rubio Vance, so it'll be like probably the most likely to draw the most Republican voters in.
What if it's not though? What if they're voting? What if they're running against each other in the primary? Who are you voting for? Are you voting for Vance because you want the Trumpier, and because you think Republicans are going to lose, and you want the Trumpier person to lose?
Well, assuming that DeSantis is still in, I'm going to vote for DeSantis. I mean, unless there's some other candidate that comes in.
Everyone has dropped out. Everyone has dropped out.
Like if it was literally, if I had to choose just between the two and there's like no other candidates running, then I'd probably vote for Rubio over Vance. I think that's pretty obvious.
Oh, okay.
I think Rubio.
I thought you just contradicted.
As Vance
I guess you were just kind of running a hypothetical.
Yeah, I was running the hypothetical within your worldview specifically, not necessarily saying that I would prefer to vote for Rubio.
That's good.
Yeah, welcome back.
Hey, what's up? I've been listening.
It seems as though there is a consensus, though, that a repudiation of JD Vance is necessary. Is that? Are we in agreement there?
I think Vance should lose.
You think North thinks Vance should lose? Kay, what do you think?
Well, I guess like in the hypothetical, if Republicans are going to lose, it is better that the Trumpier candidate lose than a moderate or more moderate Republican, because we want to show that a more mainstream appeal candidate viability. You don't want, right? So we wouldn't want them to lose. So yeah, it would be better if a Trumpier or more MAGA type candidate lost.
I think I have complicated feelings about JD Vance because I like pretty strongly dislike him right now. I also like really liked him during the election. I didn't know as much about him necessarily, whatever. I thought he was very impressive and smart. And well, whatever. But I think like there's room for him to turn certain things, some of the issues that I have with him, I think there's room for him to turn those things around. But the reason I think there is because I think he's kind of snaky, and like he really has had some of the most extreme changes in his perspective. So I don't know that I would trust that either. Even if he were to come around to some of the things that I have concerns about him with, I don't. Yeah, I hope it's not Vance, but it's probably going to be Vance.
That is what the odds makers certainly say. And if it were a Vance versus Newsom decision, you think you would go Newsom, or would you just sit out?
I think Newsom is like in terms of judging who he was probably maybe not infinitely better, but a magnitude better than Vance.
Tali is keeping their inner peace as their blood pressure rises at the thought of this hypothetical.
I think it would really it would depend on the day to a certain extent for me. I don't know, like you could like rile me up probably in either direction, but that's not an easy choice for me. Again, the more like ridiculous that you make the Democrat and vice versa, the easier it becomes, right? I'm voting Gavin Newsom over Tucker Carlson 10 times a day, and I'm going to steal my neighbor's ballots and vote for him. I'm going to fraudulently vote for him on all of my neighbor's ballots too.
The election fraud that Donald Trump was talking about.
Exactly. But it's I don't feel that same way about JD Vance that I feel about Tucker. But I see them in the same camp. So I don't know. I don't know. Really, again, I think it would depend on the day, and I could be convinced in either direction, or certainly I could be convinced to sit out at that point. But that's not an obvious one to me.
All right, what about you?
You were called independent populists for America First, and they're saying that they hate Newsom
I
so
think-
much that they would vote for Vance.
Interesting.
Goodness. Okay, what
I think
about you?
I would. Yeah, I would. Vance or Newsom. Probably Vance. I really think that the Democrats and the left overall pose a big cultural and societal risk. Like I don't know that I want that party getting back in power, honestly. It would really depend, I think, coming closer to the time and seeing like where things were. So it could go in a different direction, but it would really take a lot for me to really want to see the Democrats in power. I would probably not vote or vote third party.
Okay. Well, let's pry that out. I kind of want to know, like, what risks do you think that we would be in danger of incurring by the Democrats getting in power, even if it were someone who is seemingly more moderate, like Gavin Newsom?
What risks?
Yeah,
Moderate just doesn't
are you
mean
with-
anything anymore. There's like, I think there are like very few truly moderate Dems left, and that's not to say that the Republicans are also very extreme, but I still think on like the center right, you find more people who are like moderate in whatever way I would define it than you do on the center left. I think the center left is basically people who are like very progressive, but also like neoliberal economically and stuff like that, and like a little more hawkish. But I think
but
like Gavin Newsom's not meaningfully a moderate.
All right, fine. I used the wrong
No,
word.
but
You accused the left of being language police, and here you are calling me out for using the wrong term. All right.
You can use it. I just think I don't know how accurate of a descriptor it is.
Fair
and I know
enough.
this whole moderate centrist thing is a big topic of conversation right now. Anyway,
but
so I think. So wait. Let me just get in. I will say. I think when the left in general, the Democrats, however you want to call it, are talking about things, and I think we were talking, or we said part of like what could earn a vote back is if when they talked about things, they were very specific. So instead of talking about there's racism in the country, there's this specific thing that we see, and this is showing us that there is racism. This is what it will look like when it is fixed. This is the metric. This is how we're going to achieve it. Not any of this big kind of like
Systemic
intangible,
racism,
hard to
yeah.
nail down language. So very specific things. And I could get on board with some of those proposals, but when it's so kind of like up in the air and it can change to fit wherever the kind of winds are swaying, I really don't have any trust in it.
Like I can agree with you that is a problem. A problem that I have with politicians is that they will go out and they'll do the politispeak in which do you love America? Yeah, I love America. Was it the famous that Family Guy clip 9/11, and then everyone starts like cheering, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I'm being autistic about that.
Autistic on the internet?
Yeah, true.
How dare you?
There is politispeak that happens with politicians. The problem is I don't know if you can necessarily hold that just to the standard of the Democratic Party. Like this happens in the Republican Party too, to the same degree. Like
yes, but you're asking when I'm talking about.
I feel like if we're trying to find like a differentiation, it should be something that I don't know is more distinct between like the two parties. Besides what happens with like every single politician. Like, of course, I want politicians to be more accurate in their verbiage and to be more specific and be more, especially substantive in like what they want to achieve and like what their policy aims are.
Okay. Well, they also need to stop treating like culturally when people are talking, stop treating like trade-offs as like bigotry when people are talking about trade-offs, and stop accusing people of bigotry when we're talking about conflicting needs. Those are things that would show me that they are like they have some kind of, I don't know, acknowledgement that these are not just I don't know, like easy questions and like with easy answers, and that they're grappling with like conflicting needs of others in a meaningful way. And I come from the left. I was on the radical left for a very long time. So that is where my kind of like that is where I come from. So I am more harsh and more critical of the left because I spent all of my adult life there until not too long ago. You know?
Like I can agree with you.
Can I get in there really quickly?
Yeah, sorry, you go, and then I'll go.
Just like Kay's reason is not necessarily my reason, but to like steelman it a bit specifically to what your concern was there, North. Like, yes, both parties do this, but arguably with a left-wing big government directionally, if they're vague and just talking, that's going to mean like allocating resources and doing all of the, a sort of positive intervention as opposed to vague negative interventions. This is, on a more macro scale here, and it doesn't work one-to-one for every politician who's talking this way. But arguably, people being, generally nondescript or non-specific in ways that they want to cut what they see as frivolous spending or whatever, as opposed to increasing spending and having, again, this sort of like nebulous like racism thing, which is sort of like, if you listen to the people who actually are in the praxis, and reading the theory of all this stuff, they believe that you can never escape racism, that it is essentially an original sin that we are each born with and that we have to just repent for, as we move through our life. And even if we repent perfectly, our babies, our white babies are still going to be born with that original sin. So it's like, that does make me more nervous. Again, that's not necessarily my reason, but I think it's...
what we need white Jesus to take on the sins of all of racism, and that way we don't have to worry about that in the future. So like I understand the apprehension about like the culture war bullshit that happens on the left with the racism and like, all white people are bad and cultural appropriation and all that bullshit. Like I understand the apprehension. Like there's a reason I'm a conservative. As much as I'm arguing against the Trump administration right now, I am a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a progressive. That being said, again, it's like the hierarchy of needs. It's like, do we care about there's like the policies and like the culture war stuff, and then there's like the Constitution. And right now,
I understand, but
I would think that like caring about the Constitution and making sure that our country survives is more important than letting 4 years of the Democrats let do their weird culture war bullshit, which is more reversible than the further degradation of our system.
It might be more.
I actually think almost the opposite. I think these things are culturally entrenched. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 5 kids. I have 2 little kids and 3 teenagers. It's not undoable for them living in a culture war. You know what I mean? The messaging constantly. It's not undoable in that way. So I will always, even if I understand on like a pragmatic level that there could be things, and I don't necessarily know that I agree with your like how you see it 100%, but even if I did, if it's going to affect the life of my kids more in that way, I'm probably going to be voting, and other people are probably going to be voting on what they see impacting them on a day-to-day basis more. And I think I don't think that that's like that far like out of the norm.
Well, and to take it one step further, I think, and I'm interested to see how you're going to respond to this, North, because I know people on the left obviously push back on this tremendously, and I need to do a disclaimer because I in no way am trying to remove responsibility or agency from the people who engage in the behavior that I'm about to describe. However, I do think that a lot of the white pride and white nationalism and groiperism and the post-liberal, let's go, America should actually be, an ethnically or largely ethnically homogenous state. I think a lot of that is a backlash to the cultural beating of white people, again, are born with this original sin of racism. And so I think like it's in my view of things, it's I think maybe you're diminishing the seriousness of it to a certain extent to just call it like the annoying culture war stuff. Maybe even I'd say maybe at a time when this was truly relegated to the universities, and even especially in a sort of like pre-internet era, and then especially a pre-social media era, right? That these things you could ignore, I guess, more. But they are, like, to my point about there being no true moderates, no true Scotsmen on the left. I think that's because a lot of them have been this has grown and grown, and it's the water that they're swimming in, that many of them who are very sensible, reasonable people who I would like to ideally see leading the left, if I want a healthy left and a healthy right, I still think most of those people have imbibed a lot of that culture war stuff. They do, like, they do believe in this, notion of like never-ending systemic racism, and that everyone is carrying around, everyone's microaggressing, and they're watching their language in that way, and they've bought into the idea that it is like truly oppressive to have certain conversations, and that words are actually violence. And so I think it is more serious than just like annoying people on the internet. This is where I get frustrated with people on the left that I have this conversation with, is because they're like, oh, so, you voted Trump because of like that annoying 3-follower Twitter account. And it's like, well, no, not really. It is much larger than that.
It's because there's 30 million of those 30-follower accounts.
Yeah. And
okay.
And again, this just the politicians speak this way too, in a way that's like cringe, because when it's still never good enough for the people who are further left than them, and you hear them like tripping over their words and whatever, and maybe some of them don't believe it, but I think a lot of them just have bought into at least like the lower level of this stuff.
Oh, I'm fully bought in.
So there's two
not joking
pushbacks I have to have on that. So the first one is, do you know what the Ouroboros is? You know what I'm talking about when I say that?
Yeah,
it's the snake that eats its own tail. Yeah, exactly. It feels like whenever people, like, that's how I like to imagine the rise of like far right, post liberal right wing people, is that I think to a degree you're correct that like the crazy leftists who talk about like, they blame white people for everything, you cracker. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not.
We'll censor it in post.
I'm a white person, so I have the pass, the C pass. I agree that exists, in which there is a sort of, I guess you would call it like anti-white racism. You might not call it systemic, but you could call it like a cultural counter-reaction on like the left. I won't deny that exists, but it's also perpetuated by the content creators. Like, I don't think the ideas of Nick Fuentes would be as popular if Nick Fuentes like didn't exist, right? The radicalization is not just on the onus of the left; it's also the onus on the post-right content creators that spur this further. For every
that was the reason
liberal that is melting down over Donald Trump winning the 2016 election, there is a content creator laughing at that liberal melting down and thus perpetuating the cycle. It's the self-eating snake. And I think when you're talking about like who is responsible for the radicalization of like the post-liberal right, you can't just look at the left and say that's the thing that caused it. It's also because I guess the moderate right has failed, and we have yet to also keep in check the content creators who are on the right, who are radicalizing these people even further. So that's the first thing.
So the real problem is not the anti-white racism on the left; it's libs of TikTok pointing it out.
It's part of it. I never said it was never. I never said that it was purely on the onus of the content creator. They feed into each other. That's why it eats its own tail. It's both of them. It's you have the crazy leftists who talk about like all the anti-white stuff, and then you have the
not so crazy
the
leftists,
right-wing,
the standard Democrats who talk about this stuff too.
But then you also have the post-right, the post-liberal right-wing content creators who flame it even further, and that causes the people on the left to get even more radicalized. They're like, see, they were fascists all along. And then it keeps eating itself into further and further radicalization, and that's perpetuated even further because you have like content, algorithmic content on the internet and like endless scrolling and all that, and that just makes everything even worse with the perpetuation of radicalism. And then that's the first part. Second thing I want to respond is sort of, do you think that the people that are in charge of the Democratic Party, or at least the Democrats who are running for the Democratic primaries, are, as you described, the crazy progressives who espouse the anti-white, pay me reparations bull? Like, do you think that is among the primary? Those who are running for the Democratic primaries in 28.
Kind of. And that's, insofar as I would take issue with
who is it? That's why I'm curious. Who is it and why? I would love to hear your reasoning why.
Well, it goes back to my point earlier, because they've all just been swimming in this water for so long. So like, this is again a more general critique that I've had of the left since I'll answer your question. Again, I think it's literally all of them. I think Gavin Newsom engages in this, obviously AOC. Mark Kelly doesn't really wade so much, I guess, into culture war stuff. But I think,
like AOC, I would concede that. Yeah, I have apprehensions about supporting AOC, as I've said before. But Gavin Newsom, I started doing some research into Gavin Newsom. I need to read his book, especially if he wins or is looking to win the Democratic primary. But what are some of the crazy things that Gavin Newsom has talked about that's crazy progressive, in which he's like, I hate white people.
So does it need to be I hate white people to pass your bar of like?
Oh, not really. I hate white people. Just I just want to hear an example, because I haven't heard of one. Yeah. Like just an example would help me come to your side more.
I don't have anything pulled up in front of me. Like, I'm happy to get back to you. That wasn't anything that I prepared for. I mean, I didn't prepare for anything for this conversation, but that wasn't something that I, and also it's not just, it's not. Yeah, well, it's not relegated to just the race thing, right? That is one piece of wokeism, for lack of better terms, or culture war, whatever stuff for lack of better terms. But I think I was saying this before, and I stopped myself where I got lost because ADHD. But my perception, and I'm biased, but my perception is that even the people on the left right now who are walking away from some of the woke excesses, if you want to call it that, are doing so because they see it as an optical loss for them, not because they believe that it's wrong or immoral. Like, and yeah, sort of like to your point, North, like I also sometimes get all angry. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't just want the left to move past this stuff. I want them to reckon with it. I want them to say out loud that anti-white racism is evil and immoral, and something that we must condemn, in the strongest of terms. But I will be happy with them just moving on from it. Same way, I think, again, analogous to the right. They don't need to say that Trump, was an evil dictator, as long as we can just move on and progress in a better direction.
Yeah. I mean, in that regard, I'd have to it would be like, if I were to hold that standard, I would need them all to say, yeah, we got it wrong. It was, we were mistaken. It was bad. We were going in the wrong direction. And I don't necessarily I would like that. Like, I don't necessarily expect that in any way.
But yeah, they won't do that because, according to you, they'll give up their power, and it's, what do you call it? It's unoptimal as a political strategy, because
it's just about giving up their power, but I think
it's for the left to do it as well.
It's not so much about giving up the power. Yeah, it's also about polarization, and it just being hard to cede any territory when everybody is so entrenched, right?
But
especially when you're doing it publicly.
You understand? There is a dilemma here, right? It feels like we're, at least the way that I'm understanding how you're framing this, the difference between how we're treating, we need to at least acknowledge that Trump was a bad president in his second term, versus the left or the Democrats having to acknowledge that their culture war stuff, they took it too far. I'm
not saying that they have to acknowledge
it. You want them to acknowledge that, but at the same time, you are
ideally
strategy for it to be among the Republicans to acknowledge that Donald Trump was a bad president in 20. It feels like there's
I'm not holding it as a standard
between those two things.
I'm saying it would be for you to want people to say that Trump was bad. There's no problem with that, but holding it as a litmus test, I just don't think is like optimally and pragmatic. I would like them to reckon with it and say that on a personal level to see that they have changed, but it is not something I would necessarily like. It would not get in the way if I saw in like other meaningful actions that they have moved on to something else. You know, I don't mean to like.
So it's more important that they stick to messaging on specific policies that are solution oriented. They don't lean on culture war things, and they're just very steering clear.
Autistic. They need to be very autistic.
Sure.
And I say that I am not opposed to all aspects, I guess we could say, of progressivism, but insofar as that they're unending. And they don't seem to have any like actual destination to arrive to and to get to, really. It is all very wishy-washy. That I can't sign on for like ever again. It's like unending progress.
Again, I let me reiterate, I guess, the point I'm trying to make, because sometimes I can be very bad at trying to hammer in exactly what I want to say. I'm trying to demonstrate that the leading candidates for the Democratic primary are not the same sycophants as you will see among like the Hassan Piker crowd, for example.
Not even close.
They are not even close. Or even like it doesn't even have to be Hassan Piker crowd. I guess what you call like general like crazy progressives. Like I think there is a differentiation between the two. I think it's much more toned down when it comes to those leading politicians, for one. And then hold on, I had another point, and then my brain got fried. And then acknowledging that it is toned down, or at least I would hope that you would be able to acknowledge that it is more toned down. Do you think that toned down progressivism is going to be better or worse than the harm that will be achieved if J.D. Vance were to like win the presidency in 2028? And I think that's pretty clear. Is that I would rather have the toned down progressivism as much, and I'm not saying like to say, oh my gosh, I love progressivism. I love the leftist culture war. I'm not saying you can hold your nose and you can like say that I don't like that, but this is what I'm willing to tolerate in order to save the. Obviously, you're Canadian.
I hear you.
Kay, so it's a little bit different with your dynamic, but
so I would say the progressivism that you're that you're describing, without some kind of like firm limit on it, I would still vote Republican if it could be tangible and limited and described and like more precise. Then possibly I would get behind it, but not if it's just like a limitless version of progressivism.
Maybe the best way to put it would be self-aware of its past failures, right?
No, it literally just has to have a limit. It has to say we are trying to get here. These are the metrics. This is how we know we arrive.
Do you think that Zoran Mamdani satisfies those criteria?
Jesus.
Now, I mean, he might be
he's very far left,
but I mean,
he is being very realistic and precise about his goals, how he's going to get there. You know,
I think he's an effective politician. I think what he runs on, I think he wanted to bounce the New York City governmental debt. And I think he did bounce the budget just recently.
He made the announcement.
I don't know about the other policies he wanted to institute. He's had some really sketchy comments.
Balance the budget. That's like a crazy thing to just take his word. Yes, he made a video saying meaning that he was like able to secure like more potentially able to secure more money coming from the state.
I think he cut expenses and he increased taxation. I think is what happened with the New York, because they were running on a deficit spending, and I think they're no longer running on deficit spending anymore. That's how I understand.
Because what New York State needs is higher taxes, especially New York City.
I'm not saying. Okay, here's my question. This is something I've been thinking about.
It's not for working people. It's for second properties, etc. Like he modified it to be less onerous to working class people.
Do you think that
and more onerous?
I agree that more taxation
the
generally
economy
is
of
bad.
New York City.
Those people.
Do you think that
New York's going to be a place that prints money even without them there?
We're starting to talk over each other.
It's fun when we do that, though.
Oh, I know, but not for the listener though. They really like to hear the words we say. Let's address the North. You were saying something. I want to also give space though for the disagreement between James and Tali. So North, if you could say what you were going to say, and then I want to get back to this exploration of what is too far progressive, even if somebody might satisfy the criteria. So North, if you could please.
Okay. What do you think is worse, higher taxation or like running massive deficit spending? I'm just curious because I've been thinking about this. I think it's a bit of an inconsistency with the Republican Party is that we claim to care about the national deficit, but at the same time, as what we call fiscal conservatism, but at the same time, we also care about like cutting taxes. But the problem is we never actually cut our spending when we cut our taxes. So we just are increasing the national deficit. So what do you think is more important to focus on? Do you think focusing on the national deficit is more important to focus on? Or do you think cutting taxes might be more important to focus on?
Well, I have the advantage of not, to Kay's point, I come from the left. So caring about the national deficit has never been at the top of my agenda. So, and even if only for like selfish reasons, I'm more concerned with like how much of my paycheck I'm retaining. Obviously, ideally, I think to your point, I would want us certainly to cut spending as well. It's math, right? If you cut taxes and don't cut spending, you've added to the problem basically. So I hear you there, and I don't think either is ideal. But if I'm faced with those two options in the ballot box, I want my taxes
not
lower.
To like we acknowledge the historical fact that whenever we talk about cutting taxes, I can't think of a single administration where we've cut taxes and then we've also like cut spending proportionally. Like usually we just cut taxes and we just leave the spending the same.
Acknowledged.
Yeah, okay, yeah, just making sure. And then how should I say this? Are you familiar with what I think it's the third largest item on the United States budget is? I know it's a bit pedantic, or maybe not pedantic, but overly specific.
The third largest?
I think it's the third or second largest, if I'm remembering correctly.
Which item? Pardon.
No.
It is the United States annual interest payment.
Oh yeah, it's been climbing. It's been climbing.
Oh, that's bad.
Out there.
Yeah. So the reason why we have annual interest payments is because we have national debt, and the more national debt that we have means that over time we build up more interest payments. So if you want to talk about like, oh, you don't want your paycheck you selfishly want your paycheck to be taken out as little as possible. Well, I think we also have to acknowledge the fact that now, like, I forget, was it 25% of like the budget or something like that? Fact check me if I'm wrong here. Is going towards paying off our interest for our national debt. That's
absolutely wild. You triggered me. I'm with you. That's crazy. That's unacceptable. Yeah. But again, like I said, I want to cut spending. So I agree with that as well. I think that's the direction.
I think it's about like what short-term pain, long-term gain. Yeah.
Okay, but I think actually there's a problem with your premise there, because you're saying essentially, right, which do you prefer, as if like going with the left is representing, an increase in taxes, but the left is also increasing spending too. I mean, that's Mamdani's whole thing is like, look what the government can do for you. We want a bigger and better government, that can service all of the people. So that issue is also, so you could argue that, and Republicans have added.
I could acknowledge that.
I'm not gonna.
And they've added more.
But when you're talking about deficit spending, it's
even
not
over like a
like
50-year period, if you go by Democrat spending versus deficit, it's just better over the average of the last 50 years.
When we're talking, like, when the Democrats, like, I will acknowledge they'll increase spending and then they'll increase taxes, but the gap that, you know, when you spend too much and you tax too little, the gap of deficit spending among Democrats has been smaller among Democrats.
It gets bigger.
It's bigger among Republican administrations. Yeah.
Right.
I think that just needs to be acknowledged that our national debt crisis that we're experiencing right now is due to too many tax cuts, and I think we should like freeze what our taxes are right now and try to digitalize, basically, or at least be okay with the fact that we might need to even increase taxes if we care about lowering the national debt. It might be temporary pain now, but I think this is something that it's a nobility that's been lost among the American people. And I think it's mostly retained by conservatives. At least I like to think so. That we care about the next generation and building a better future for the future. And I think part of that is, making sure that our deficit is no longer at 124% debt to GDP ratio, percentage. I mean, it's fucked.
Yeah, unironically, I'm more worried about the deficit than January 6th at this point. Like, I'm more offended by the 10 trillion that's supposed to be added over the next 10 years by the current tax cut for the rich.
Can I just take us back for one moment really quickly? I did a cursory Google search of my man, Gavin Newsom. I totally forgot that he was the one who signed them into studying. It's ironic because this was a specific example that you gave about reparations. And yes, Gavin Newsom is like the leader of one of the few states in the country that at least pretended. And again, maybe he pandered, and potentially with him, I would believe that he pandered more than he felt in his soul. This was an important thing to do, but he's certainly been willing to play that game. Gavin Newsom described systemic racism as a deeply entrenched crisis permeating U.S. institutions.
True.
Focused on structural inequalities, the legacy of slavery in our legislative actions. He, during the pandemic, said that racism is a pandemic on top of a pandemic. He...
True.
When Senator Feinstein
living underclass and pandemics hurt the lower class the most, and so it basically doubled down on the racism. Yeah, they were put in a poor condition because of
it's not racism. If we're talking, if we're saying that this is affecting people by class, then it's like literally not racism. But he also, when Senator Feinstein,
not racism.
When Senator
Is it a situation where you will be in a worse situation because of your race?
Let me just finish this off really quickly. No, it is not. It is not a situation because you would be worse off, because of your race. But when Senator Feinstein was sick and Newsom was going to have the ability to name her predecessor, he made a promise on air to Joy Reid of MSNBC that he would select a black woman, even though she was the furthest behind in the polls of where the support was. So yes, he has played into all of the culture war bullshit. He might not. He might taste, he might stick his finger out and see where the winds are blowing, which, by the way, is the main criticism that people on the left have of him, is that he checks to see which way the winds are blowing, and that's, where he goes. So I don't think it's likely that Gavin Newsom is going to be running in 2028 on reparations and announcing that he's going to select X amount of black or, POC women, into his cabinet. But yes, he is part of what I'm talking about here, because again, I think it has affected basically everyone. Like, again, even the most moderate Dems have this progressive speak. They have bought into a lot of the leftist, I don't know, postmodern worldview,
the dialectic or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like, the language
drift has been like for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I can acknowledge that. Like, I'm not going to say Gavin Newsom is not a progressive or has not engaged in this. I just don't think it's to the degree of the craziness of white people need to be oppressed. And I think
that would be so bad though. Again, so
that he has demonstrated that it is not shown the sufficient fear to say that Gavin Newsom is going to be such a threat to the nation that any 4-year term that he would be a part of is going to be less destructive than Yeah, and then Gavin.
I don't think he's. I agree. I don't think
hesitancy.
he's such a threat to the nation. In the same way that, like, when people try to pin me on the Trump versus Kamala thing, it's like I don't think that Kamala was a specific great threat to our nation. It's the direction of the party, and I do think that in many ways the right is more top down and the left is much more bottom up. And the bottom on the left has a lot of absolutely crazy people, and they get a lot of attention. And again, it's like every year they do win a little more. The radical people on the left are successful in spreading their message into positions of power. I mean, there was this person, some crazy fucking person who made a dumb post today on Twitter, and I clicked her profile to check who it was, and she's talking like an extreme far leftist, and she's like part of the New York City Council of like progressive caucus, whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, so that is where the progressives are. They are totally bought into like what I would say are the most nefarious.
Again, like it's like holding the standard of that lady to the primary people that are running in the Democratic Party. Like I don't like. Again,
this is what like the libs that we argue on here do also. It's like, nothing is ever a problem on the left because their politicians, in many ways, by the way, are much more adult-like and responsible, I guess, in that way than a lot of the politicians on the right. They're not gonna say most batshit. Yeah, right. But that doesn't like change the direction that they're moving in and whatever. And so yes, like they.
But like our politicians already have moved. So many of our politicians have moved into like basically just giving up on like democracy and facts and truth, and are just following Donald Trump into the abyss, and it will lead to the destruction. In fact, I would argue that we've already run off the cliff of like maybe not the destruction of the party, but like for the next, at least for the next 4 years. I'm under the assumption that Democrats are going to be winning in the 2028 election. Like we've run off the cliff, and I don't think we've seen anything to like show for it. And why should we allow this craziness to happen in our own party because of the craziness that's happening in the Democratic Party? Like, sure, you want to talk about like the Democrats. You want to talk about like the Democrats being crazy, sure. Then at the very least, like I don't think I even have to convince you to vote for the Democrats. You can just abstain. Like abstaining is like a perfectly fine option.
And there are plenty of people, if they were to be the nominee,
you just have to acknowledge that there is a rot in the Republican Party right now, and that rot
I don't disagree.
leads to what we would call like Trumpism or MAGA, and if we are to get rid of it, we cannot blindly support these terrible politicians because we're concerned about like the Democrats. Like at the very least, I think we need to learn to just abstain from. At the very least, we have to learn to abstain from voting for these terrible politicians. At worst, we are going to have to hold our nose. We're not going to like it. We're going to have to vote for the Democrats if we think that it's going to be like substantially destructive to our nation, even if we abstain. So I think this needs to be acknowledged.
With that,
yeah, and there are ways that I could. Sorry, there are ways that I could get there. It's just, to me, the bigger threat is beyond Trump. So, like, I agree with that essentially in a forward-looking way. There are plenty of people that I would, at the very least, abstain if they end up being at the top of the ticket.
But why didn't you abstain? So you said that there was conversation.
I came into this
Kamala and Trump in 24. I'm just curious, why did you vote for? Because you're a 3-time voter, right? You did 2016, 20, and 24. Am I remembering that correctly?
I'm a radical leftist. I'm not a radical leftist. Sorry, that's obviously not true. I voted for Bernie in the primary in 2016 and 2020, but I voted for Hillary and Biden in both of those elections, and then I voted for Trump in 2024. So I came in at a different point too, and there are a lot of things that I now take issue with. Again, for whatever reason, I don't regret my vote. Maybe it's just because I'm being obstinate to sort of me and Kay's point earlier that like asking people to like do their mea culpa and express all of this regret might not actually be productive. But I've come to see things differently even since the election, and there are plenty of issues that I have. And again, it's like I said, I wish Hillary Clinton won in 2016. I wish that we could have avoided Trumpism. I do believe that it's done tremendous damage to the Republican Party and to our country, if only for the reasons of this reciprocal radicalization that's going on. But yeah, I came into it. I was talking to someone else the other day about this, but like, I came into it late. It was different things that were appealing to me. It wasn't like the populist stuff that kind of got Trump started that appealed to me. And I had a bit of rose-colored glasses. I had a bit of the zeal of the convert. I had my like ideological turn started in 2021. So when it got to the next election, I was ready to vote right. Right, not for Trump. In fact, I had wished that it weren't going to be Trump, right? I hoped that it would be anyone but Trump. But whether it's that I gaslit myself enough or whatever in that process, I came to the conclusion that, yes, I was definitely going to vote against the left, which means voting for the right. And I do see myself as on the right. Like, that just feels like the only honest way to describe myself.
Like, I'm not going to, because obviously we change over time. I'm not necessarily going to hold your feet to the fire or anything like that. How do you feel about your vote for Trump in 24? Now, like, do you wish you did something different? Like, let's say you could turn back time to what was the day of the election for the 24 election?
November 8th.
The election or the transfer
the actual
of
day
power?
of the election,
Well,
like the
we
day
turn
that
it
you
back
go
to
out,
election
you
day.
like vote on the ballot.
November 4th,
Yeah,
maybe?
election day. Yeah, November 4th. Let's say you're on November 4th, 2024, or sorry, 24. Yeah, 2024.
Yeah.
You have the option to redo everything. How would you cast your ballot? Or would you do it all again the same way?
Yeah, I wouldn't, because again, so there's a million cop-outs that I wouldn't change my vote. And there are a million cop-outs that I can use to explain that, which is, and I voted in a blue state, you know what I mean? Like there's all these like,
no, those are
and
valid.
maybe they are just
They're not
cop-outs.
No. That's
okay. So
the protest vote. You're letting your voice, your opinions be expressed in a way that wouldn't be toxic to whatever.
And again, and it's like, so I don't know how I would have voted if I felt like I was in a very if I was in a state where it would have been more consequential. I don't know. That's maybe a different question that I would have to give some time to thinking about. But no, I especially seeing the trends of what we saw after the election. I think that my vote was accurately recorded as part of the movement in every county in the country to the right. Even blue counties moved more red in the 2024 election. So I think I was accurately accounted for.
But it's not just like a move to the right? It's also an acknowledgement, I guess, a disregard, reckless disregard of the rule of law and the Constitution, and what's your opinion on January 6th? Just out of curiosity. Like, what do you know about it? What's your opinion about it? Did that at all impact your vote, or like your understanding of Trump and how he is respectful to the Constitution, and especially like with the context of his second term today? Like, what's your opinion on that?
So again, sort of herein lies the problem. When January 6th happened, I was at my desk at work hysterically crying. Oh my God, what is happening to my country? I thought it was absolutely awful. I still think it was despicable and embarrassing and awful. Again, this all happened before I even had my ideological shift. So for better or for worse, and maybe one day I'll agree with you that it was for worse, I got much more comfortable with the idea of Trump. And this had to do, obviously, with the different people that I was reading and listening to and all of this stuff. So, again, maybe I was totally gaslit, and one day I'm going to say that I made the wrong decision. I've also said, I said this the other day, like, I think had I had my political journey, that's the gayest word I could have chosen for that, had I had my ideological shift earlier in time, maybe where I would have ended up now is somewhere more like North, or more like Jonah Goldberg, or someone who is, is a conservative, but just, sees Trump as obviously an impediment to their movement in the country that they want to see. I see that because again, I'm like, I have tons of criticism for Trump, and I still wish it weren't Trump.
But you're still willing to hold your nose and not just vote. I'm not even going to hold you to
Those
you voting
were-
for him then, but like you would vote for him today, and I think that is an indictment, at least in my opinion, on you, I guess, because like, how do you really think that like the culture war stuff of the left is that much of a threat that you're willing to vote for Donald Trump with an acknowledgement? Like, do you acknowledge that January 6th was an attempted coup on the United States government?
Wait, hold
An
on.
attempted
Could you
subversion
imagine?
of our election? I just want to know if
Just-
you understand this or not.
Let's get the answer to that question. Then I also want to hear from Kay.
Yeah.
It's very it's a little patronizing. Like, not I want to see if you agree with this, but I want to see if you understand this because I obviously have the correct position. So I want to see if you too have the correct position. But yes, I think that is an appropriate way to describe it. Obviously, there's like the day of January 6th, and then there's the there's the electors scheme, and those things are separate and related. But yes, it was an atrocity, a stain. Yes, they are. I agree with you. Was again, so yes, I think yes. And by the time that it came around to me voting in 2024, that was just nowhere near the top of my mind.
All right,
Okay,
Kay,
you go.
And I don't want to talk for you,
Or
Tali,
not.
but I just want to like I guess like
talk for me. You're good at that.
No. If you could imagine, like
she's actually good at
like-
putting my thoughts into much more sensible and coherent sentences. So
He's an empath.
yes.
No. If you could imagine being on the left, and maybe you've been on the right for most of your life or not, I don't know. But being on the left, growing up on the left, being of the left, and then being more and more further left and progressive and radical, and surrounding yourself with other radicals, activists, and your entire life being consumed by radicalism and activism, and seeing people who want nothing but the complete and utter destruction of your country, and then having a complete and utter ideological shift that you could now see that the other side, that the side that you were formerly on, is actually so dangerous in ways that cannot fully be explained to the average person who doesn't see what goes on within like certain types of organizations and groups, and how much it is permeated the culture and people at large, that you would feel very comfortable voting for somebody on the right. Now, maybe you can't see that, but I can say that I could definitely see that from where I can't come from. I used to like Antifa, Black Bloc, and protest. Like, so I really like
I get where you're coming from. I want to say this. I understand your apprehension and your fear of, I guess what you would call like radical progressives, attempting to like permanently change like what it means to be like American and what America means in order to change it into some sort of like progressive future. I don't know what better way to describe that. Like I understand your apprehension to that, but it's a matter of, do you think that 4 years of someone who is in someone winning the Democratic primary, or whoever that might be, probably Gavin Newsom statistically, do you think 4 years of that is going to be more or less damaging, or going to be able to undo that damage easier than someone like JD Vance, or someone like JD Vance, who is wholly uninterested in following our Constitution and has no regard for the rule of law at all?
I'm not necessarily trying to persuade you.
Further corruption and further self-enrichment and further degradation of America, and the further destruction of our economy too, and the chasing of some sort of weird America first, fuck over our allies, cut off all trade negotiations bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is, especially in the short term, in the context of one administration, in which we're deciding which one we want to tolerate for a 4-year period between 2028 and 2032. I would much rather have the tolerate the Gavin Newsom than the JD Vance. Like, even acknowledging the threat and the fear and the concern of like changing what America is supposed to be like in the future.
I get it. I'm just saying, and I'm not necessarily trying to persuade you even necessarily. I'm just trying to get you to see it from maybe how you were asking Tali, from where she came from and where her mind was and how she came to be able to make that vote. That's all. Like, you don't have to, I guess, necessarily agree. I'm just trying to give you maybe like a different way of understanding her thought process. Sorry.
Well,
Tali, I
and
didn't
to
mean
that
talk to you.
point, no. I love when you talk for me. But to that point, and again, maybe I will come to see this differently one day. I hold that possibility out there. I've already changed my mind very dramatically on things that I once held very, very dearly. But the conclusion that I eventually came to was essentially that our institutions held, after Trump won. Now, you could argue, and I would agree with you in certainly part of the discussion, that Trump 2 is worse, is different in these consequential ways. But the conclusion that I came to was that the country didn't fall apart, and we did rebound pretty seamlessly even. And so I guess I'm not entirely convinced that what the Dems could or would do could be undo overnight, but what the Republicans could or would do would be like permanent and take us, centuries to solve. This is sort of what I meant by the projecting into the future. I'm just like, I'm not convinced of that. And again, maybe perhaps that's my own naivete, but I think to Kay's point, our differences here might come down to demographic differences and sort of dispositional differences. So if you've been on the right your entire life in Kentucky, that's an assumption I'm making. Is that accurate?
Not my entire life, no. I was born in Colorado. I spent the first between ages of 2 and 10 in Alaska, and then at age 2 and 13 in Alaska, and then at age 13 I moved down to Kentucky, and I've been here ever since. So
I was born and raised in New York with 2 union worker Democratic parents, and then I moved to Hawaii. So I've lived only in blue areas. And to Kay's point, like I was heavily involved in activism, so that was literally and I was I was a graduate student, sort of at the beginning of my ideological turn. And so I was in the areas where the sort of issues with wokeness and leftism are the most apparent. And so I think also sort of to Kay's point, or maybe Kay was making my point, to my point that Kay made for me, is it's not even just the racism stuff, although I do think that is like a really really big issue. I think it's like actually a really large issue, but it is larger than that. There is a fundamental anti-American viewpoint, and even when that gets snuck in with like anti-imperialism and anti-colonialism, the people who buy into that believe that makes America an invalid country. And there's I think that is, yes, like that is actually a very bad direction for people who hold the levers of power if they are bought into this idea that America is a net negative on the world stage and that all we do is abuse and take advantage of other countries and poor brown queer people or something. I think now let me take this will be my closing statement right here. The biggest issue that I see between the left and the right, and again, it's a giant asterisk because there's plenty of absolutely fucking crazy and retarded people on the right, but I think the left just, to me, is out of touch with reality in too many important places.
All right, we've got a closing statement from Tali. Let's get closing thoughts from Kay and then from North, and then let's get on an exit ramp for this conversation and put a bow on it before we move on to the next segment. Sound good?
Oh boy, okay.
Sounds good.
All right, Kay, if you could, give us your final thoughts on this particular topic.
But I don't have closing thoughts.
Fair enough.
Even better.
Very good. We've
Perfect.
already got them out. North, then, do you have anything to say on the matter
Short and
before
to
we
the
move
point.
on?
Yeah, I'll try to be short about this. Yeah, I am way more concerned about the preservation of our Constitution in this current time of my life than I am about culture war stuff. Can I acknowledge that like is a threat of like wanting to change like what it means to be like an American and the culture of America and all that? Like, sure, I can acknowledge that. It's just not what is the immediate threat right now. And while I think that Democratic politicians are currently more willing to partake in that, I don't think anyone will ever deny that. It's just my fear for the future of this country is more so in the fact that our Constitution has been attempted to be violated and is currently being violated by Trump and his sycophants in this administration.
Beautiful. Well, that was a nice spirited discussion about the differentiation between your respective perspectives. I can see that we have a few people hanging out in the waiting room, so I don't want to make them wait too long. Thank you all so much for coming again. How long do we have you all? Are there any hard outs that we need to be aware of?
I'm good for the rest of the night. I mean, I'm cleared my entire schedule. I see Guy Buddy and Tito. I think Tito just left, actually. It's just Guy Buddy in there now.
Oh. Well, in regards to Kay and Tali and Kay, I know that you've got obligations of sorts, to see to potentially.
As a real adult with a family.
Yeah. Somebody who gets up at 4:30 in the morning. I could probably go till like another half hour.
Another half hour? All right. Yeah. Well, and Tali, what's your scheduling situation like?
I technically need to leave the house in 3 hours.
3? Okay. Well, how about we, what do you say we take
It's only 4 p.m. for me, so
fair enough. Well, I don't want to take it for granted that you want to hang out with us for the entire time, but how does it sound if we maybe take some call-ins, and then if we're still feeling like hanging out, we can play some games. What do you think?
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, then without further ado, let's take a look at the waiting room. We've got Guy Buddy and Patrick Sell in waiting. Now, have either of them taken the initiative to use the call-in priority pay option?
I would highly doubt it. These are both viewers of mine.
Neither of them have. Well, I don't know who showed up first, so I'm just going to have to pick one of them arbitrarily. Guy Buddy, I think we're going to go with you first. Guy Buddy, welcome to the Marketplace of Ideas. You are live, welcome. Sir. How are you, Guy Buddy?
Yo, what's up, man? What's up, guys?
Hey there.
Welcome.
Nice to have you here. Guy
Buddy, we're about to see something very vitriolic.
We're going to see some vitriol. Okay, well, I'd like to preempt the vitriol a little bit. We do try to keep things good faith and good fun here in the Marketplace of Ideas. So while we don't mind a little bit of friction, I would ask that, you try to not talk over each other, try to not resort to name calling, baseless accusations, things like that. If we can all agree to that, then let's move forward. Sound good?
Sounds phenomenal.
Beautiful.
Right when the vitriol starts, I'm going to go pee, but you're in my ear, so I'll hear everything you scream at me, and I'll be right back.
Beautiful. Please mute yourself.
Yeah.
Before we
Some people are into that. So
not at the Marketplace of Ideas, they're not. We're trying to discourage the gooning as much as possible.
It's only for the non-fun segments. Honestly.
What a start to your call.
All right, Guy Buddy, we don't want to hijack your call talking about all these improper things. Please, what have you got for us?
Oh, is this like a topic of like any kind of discussion? Like I'm gonna be honest with you. I just got home from work and I'm trying to catch up to like what the topic is in streaming.
Sure. Well, did you have something in mind to talk about? If you have a question for any of our guests. Or we can put you back in the waiting room for a bit for you to.
Well, I was just going to offer a concise explanation of what we've been discussing. We've been talking about the Republican Party, where it's moving forward in terms of, is it going to move away from MAGAism? Should it? What are our guests' respective ideals in terms of a Republican candidate in 2028? And what would the Democrats need to do to earn their vote over any potential Republicans that might run? So if you'd like to adhere to that topic, you're more than welcome to. But if you've got something that you'd rather talk about, I think we're open to that.
Cool. I'm very much open to the idea of a new form of Republican Party that's that moves away from the MAGA cult, because that's what it is.
I think we're all ready for that, for sure.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we're all on board on that. Or is this like a more like anti-Trump?
No,
like,
it's a
so
little.
let me articulate the more substantive disagreements between me and Tali and Kay. So I'm more on the side of in order to build like a better right, there needs to be like an express statement that like Donald Trump, at the very least in his second term, failed. He did not adhere to like conservative policies at all, and like as a whole, he did like bad for the country. And then the position that Tali and Kay are maintaining, I'm trying not to misrepresent your position, is that the Republican Party should not purity test away people that either previously or currently supported Donald Trump in his first and second term, and that the threat of, I guess what you would call like radical progressivism is more of a threat than Donald Trump, I guess.
Wait, what'd you say was more of a threat to? What'd you say was?
I guess what you would classify like quote unquote radical progressivism. That's like a bit of an all-encompassing term. There's like a whole lot of things that sort of can be fit into there. I don't know if it does it justice. Have I misrepresented your argument at all?
I'm just going to add an asterisk of we are on, or I'm speaking for me, but I think Kay too, we're on board with the mission of moving the Republican Party away from Trumpism and returning to a dignified, reasonable, intellectual, conservative republicanism. We're on the same team with that. We just don't think that purity testing people in this way is going to be productive or helpful in moving towards that goal. I think it will ultimately relegate you guys to third party status, basically, because you won't be able to get enough buy-in from the people who are the conservative base.
And then if you had to choose, if you had the opportunity to like re-vote in 2020, you would also vote for,
I wouldn't change
2024.
My vote,
sorry, 2024. Yeah, you wouldn't vote. You wouldn't change your vote for Trump. So
no, but there are psychological and all the other things that we've discussed. Reasons that are contributing to that. But no, and my vote wouldn't have changed anything. But no.
If you wouldn't mind me asking for some clarification on what you mean by purity testing.
Well, North basically said that, like, in order for anybody to, his belief is that anybody who is going to be, like, sort of do commentary on politics, try to influence people, or people who are going to try to run as politicians need to be able to expressly say that Trump failed and essentially run on anti-Trumpism.
I think that, for me personally, I think that's a necessity if the Republican Party needs to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. I think the Republican Party needs to have some kind of like awakening moment. And like, fuck, where do I even begin? It's just, it's really depressing to see this party just completely dissolve into a cult. I think purity testing, I don't think that's the right word for it. I think that's a bit, I don't think that's correct.
I'm also okay with purity testing. Like, I think there are, like, I think this is where the cultural backlash to censorship and cancellation and wokeism, I think the people on the right are severely overcompensating for that to the point where they've lost an ability to have moral clarity and to make moral distinctions. So now there are a lot of reactionary people on the right who essentially, if you are accused of any ism or something like that, then what we should do is defend that person at all costs, as opposed to evaluating, was the thing actually racist, sexist, whatever, any of those things. And so I don't even know how I got down that road. I'm sorry. I don't know if anyone can pull me back or if I should just stop talking here. But
it's fine. It just like we've had like a majority of Republicans in the House, the Senate, and the White House, and the amount of destruction that these three branches have caused is, I think it warrants like a massive kind of response from not just the Democratic Party, but for like Republicans that like actually have a spine. Like there
what if
has
that
to be
means
some
you'll
kind of,
never
like,
have viability? What if
Yeah.
that means you'll never have viability
That's
within
the
the
problem,
Republican
because
Party?
if you
What do you
go
mean by
that
that?
route now, then you just get kicked out of the party completely. Like there may be a
Basically,
time where that's
Adam
viable.
Kinzinger, guy about it with Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah, but even Adam Kinzinger said that at this point in time he sees himself as more of a Democrat than a Republican. So that's the thing too, and people change. You do see. It was when I was looking him up just initially. It was my first search of him, just to make sure that it was the person that I thought we were talking about. But and again, that's not insane either. Especially, you see this in the Bulwark people. Like some of them do just then kind of become more liberal, and that's not an indictment on them either. Like that's fine too. But then at a certain point, they just actually no longer represent the old or new, Republican Party.
Well, I think it's just that they're no longer in the new Republican Party. Like, I would argue that I don't think Adam Kinzinger's policies have changed very dramatically. I don't think the Bulwark. The Bulwark. I would argue that they've probably changed a bit more dramatically. Like you see them. What the fuck is his name? The guy that's in charge of
the Dispatch, less so. The Dispatch, less so. I think they still
I don't actually
maintain.
know that much about the Dispatch guys. I follow them on Twitter, but I don't actually know their history. I just know that
they have some
pretty good articles.
They put out good podcasts and stuff too that you would probably like.
So
they're obviously explicitly anti-Trump, but
so Guy Buddy, you seem to agree more with North as far as the Trump administration and what it stood for needs to be repudiated. But what about the counterpoint to that?
I'm making a joke here. I want the Republicans to go through 1% of what us Democrats have to go through with Israel and Palestine, where every fucking
you're a Democrat? Well, then respectfully, opinion completely ignored at the door. I mean, what?
What are you talking about? I want to thrive in the Republican Party, but you guys need to well, hold on. First of all, you're Canadian, right?
No, the one on top is
no. I'm the Canadian.
I was like, hold on. You listen here.
No. We've already covered.
We can have opinions, right?
We're willing to set it aside for the purpose of this discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've admitted
Canadian lives matter.
I feel like
she's already apologized for being Canadian.
Of, what us Democrats have to go through when it comes to Israel
Canadian,
and Palestine.
You mean future 51st state?
Just
I'd love it.
Yeah,
Did you support Trump? Yes or no?
They did.
And have that verbatim for the next 15 years.
Oh, yeah, that's a terrible idea. I mean, again, doing that will just. I guess that was a question I asked earlier that then James kind of was expounding on. But do you agree with? Well, again, the question is hard to ask you because you are a Democrat. So even though I respect and believe what you're saying, that you hold on.
So I respect in the Republican realm. Sorry.
I respect and believe what you're saying, that you want the best form of Republican Party, because that's how I feel about the Democrats. I want the best, most sane, most rational Democrats to be in charge, because I want two healthy parties here. But the question that I can't ask you, so do you think that the Republicans should do this purity test, even if it, the North Republicans should do this purity test, even if it means that they have no viability in the party moving forward? For you, you don't care because Republicans losing is still a win for you. Whereas in theory, North wants Republicans to win. He just wants good Republicans to win.
Yeah, do you want Republicans to win if it means the sacrifice of your morals, your ethics, and what it means to be an honest conservative and an honest Republican?
We're always sacrificing and making trade-offs. I'd be making sacrifices.
Hold on. I would argue that you're not just sacrificing something; you're sacrificing everything. There's nothing left to sacrifice. It is all gone. You have. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit into it.
It's a little hyperbolic.
Anything,
it gets back to our issue with the opening.
There's no conservative principle or moral that has been untouched or left behind in the wake of supporting Donald Trump. That is my honest to God opinion on those who support Donald Trump, or conservatives who support Donald Trump at the very least. I think there are those who are not conservatives who support Donald Trump, who are wishing for the downfall of this nation, and that's one of the reasons why they support him. And I don't think they should at all be classified as Republicans, nor should we ever work with them. And I think we've properly articulated them as like these post-liberal people on the right. And I think one of the reasons why they've managed to become so popular is because Donald Trump has given them so much share.
I think a better question to ask is like, do you want like a powerful Republican Party, or do you want like a functioning country? Because like how the country's where the country's going right now, it's yeah, you guys are like fucking winning, but like it's literally at the expense of the entire country. Like there's no accountability for people that have done crime in the past. Every January 6er has been pardoned, and now
I mean, many of them went to jail, though, right?
Yeah,
they
not
got pardoned
long enough.
Yeah, but the legal state has been completely removed.
These people are traitors to my country. They try to insurrect.
Yeah, I mean, I have no love for
like
the January
people
6ers,
that try to commit an insurrection and subvert the election were pardoned by this current president. And
now we have, aren't we
somehow
paying our
you consider that like in the morality of like of radical progressivism versus someone who tried to commit an insurrection in our country and is actively like pardoning the people that did that. Sorry, buddy, I'm on a rant right now. You somehow come to this weight in which you think that pardoning insurrection, not even just pardoning, because he was part of it. He's the one that caused the insurrection to begin with. Donald Trump was the leader of the insurrection on January 6th and the attempted subversion and of our election.
By the way, January
maybe you should blame Destiny. Maybe you should blame Destiny for not getting his
of radical progressivism. That's ridiculous to me.
All right, let's. Sorry, I want to get Tay and Callie's response to the question and to North's diatribe there, and then Guy, I want to give you the final word before we move on to our next caller. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, Tay and Kay and Tally. My goodness, is that the first time I've
If there was a question,
all I'm going to say quickly is that like the only time I ever hear Democrats talking about sending people to jail is around January 6th. Those are the only people they want to send to jail.
Literally
like,
true.
Come on.
That is.
Yeah,
I feel like out of all things you could ask for, like wanting to. That's not a argument to be had. Like
I don't know what kind of point that is. Like they try to.
Yeah,
they should be the people that go to jail the most.
It's funny and true.
That all
it's
criminals
should
remain in jail.
Sometimes you got a meme.
I think all criminals.
If you think all criminals should remain in jail, and that is a bad thing of like making sure that criminals have lighter sentences, then Donald Trump pardoning the insurrectionists on January 6th is reprehensible.
Hang on.
That's what
hang on. This is Kay's time to respond. I want to give Kay.
Sorry,
no. The point is that yes, all criminals should go to jail and stay in jail. All of them, not just the J6ers. That's all.
I think especially the J6ers.
All right.
And it's an indictment on
no
Donald
more
Trump.
than other criminals.
And a special indictment on Donald Trump when he pardoned.
Hang on.
This is just okay. Yeah.
I want to get
anti-Trump, the anti-cult.
Vote blue no matter who, motherfuckers.
All right. I want to get Tally's response, and then Guy, you'll have your time to say whatever you want within reason, and then we'll move on to the next caller. So Tally, if you may.
I don't know exactly what I'm responding to.
So there's the just this idea of the strength of the country taking precedent over the strength of the Republican Party. You heard North espouse his opinions on how strongly convicted he is with regards to the principles that have been violated by the Trump administration, January 6th, et al. But for the benefit of our caller Guy here, how would you respond to that?
Just responding to what specifically?
The general discussion. What's your response?
General discussion.
Wait, are we asking Tali?
It's okay.
Okay.
I don't have. It's fine. Guy can respond.
Yeah, I'm just gonna lay out my thoughts on this. Being a first-term Trump supporter, actually going to his rallies for his first term, and witnessing probably one of the most disgusting displays of un-American terrorism, changes your views on things, on how you value your candidates, how you value the quality of the person you want to support. The fact that me, being a lot younger at the time, was able to see that, and like the entire most of Republicans and conservatives just cannot see that is just absolutely disgusting.
Or they disagree with you and your analysis.
I wasn't finished, but what?
Well, I mean, yeah, continue, Guy, if you could.
Continue.
Yeah, the fact that, like, we still need to have this discussion of how bad January 6th was, to if it was even a goddamn insurrection. The fact that, like, we did not learn our lesson, that, or not me, but Republicans did not learn their lesson, and completely sacrificed all of their values, all of their morals, to win, to value probably one of the most disgusting human beings in this country. Yeah, you guys need to sacrifice quite a fucking lot if it means actually having some values, actually holding some values, and actually being a goddamn patriot in this country. So yeah, if you guys lose a couple elections, or fuck, not even win a single goddamn election for the next 50 years, that's fine by me. I want some Republicans with some goddamn balls and some fucking honor for this country, instead of sacrificing their souls and their fucking dignity to a goddamn devil. That's all I gotta say.
Diatribe complete.
Well, listen. I gotta be honest with you, Guy. Well said. This lefty agrees with you. Thank you so much for calling in to the Marketplace of Ideas. Here in the Marketplace of Ideas, we like to give our callers some fake currency that we call grift coin. I want to consult our guests, Tali, Kay, and North. How much grift coin out of 1,000 should we give Guy Buddy here?
1,000? That's lame.
Well, what do you want to give it? Like 5K?
I was gonna give him
That's nuts.
I was giving him 4,500 actually.
No. That's way too much. Way too much.
Why don't you give me? Hold on. Give me 8,647.
No, absolutely not. No. I see what you've done there. We can't be allowing that.
We can give you $86.47. How about that? $867. Wait, 800. Anyways, no.
Tali and Kay, I'd like your input. How much fake money should we give this gentleman?
Give me 67. Give me 67.
18.
18, some denomination. Just
18. A double digit. Okay, yeah. Compared to North, who's trying to go above.
Guy Buddy, I'll give you 1,000, but you have to use that.
No, I'm capping it at 18.
Buy a North token. I need to pass on fun.
Is that we're just doing high?
Always.
It's whatever number that you want, but just so you're aware, I'm going to split the difference. And you know what? I think given that we've got equal ends, or not quite equal ends of the spectrum there, with the minimum and maximum being floated, I'm going to say we just put it right at, I don't know. I'm going to give you the lefty bonus and give you 550. How's that sound?
Sounds great. I'm not
sure standing up for the country.
Okay. You could spend it on any of our stocks that we have in the stock market here in the Marketplace.
You can buy your favorite creator. You
can
buy North.
Buy shit.
You could buy shit.
No, you buy North.
Buy North. You could buy non-fun if you really want to be part of the quote-unquote winning team. He is leading the pack in the Marketplace of Ideas.
You can also buy your favorite ideology, liberalism.
Sell my non-fun stock.
Or you could sit on it until it replaces actual currency, which might happen someday, but probably not.
Looking forward to it.
Either way, we appreciate you coming on, Guy, and we'll hope to hear from you again someday in the future, all right?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having me on. You guys are awesome.
Take it easy, brother.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you for coming.
Well, we lost our other caller who was hanging out in the
Tito
waiting
left.
list.
I don't know what's going on with that.
Wait, I want to hear. Tali was about to say something about blame Destiny. What was that? What was that in response to? Let's get the bait going. Let's get the bait going.
Well, you can blame Destiny for not getting out his January 6th video until after the election.
Oh, that son of a bitch.
That lazy fuck.
Yep.
He left us all hanging with what was going to be
Democracy
a great
dies in darkness, Destiny.
I think he's supposed to release the unfinished script because of the fundraiser that they did.
Well, without any callers to talk to, and I know Kay has to be leaving in a few minutes, maybe we squeeze in a round of podcaster prisoner president before Kay goes?
Oh boy.
I love it.
Do it.
Appreciate
Beautiful.
ya.
Well, I mean, as I've just mentioned, we do have a game here on the Marketplace of Ideas that we like to play. We'd like to think that it is taking the online YouTube poll scene by storm. It is the greatest game that you will see on the internet, and it's one of the greatest creations that I've ever taken part in making. It's a game that we like to call Podcaster, Prisoner, President.
Podcaster, Prisoner, President.
When's the last time you guys were on a show that had production quality that good? It's a real fucking show. That's what I'm trying to impress upon you all the time. It's a real goddamn show. Because I say the name of the game, I play the sound effect that plays the gong and then says the name of the game again, and that's how you know. All right. So we've got 3 people that we're going to categorize as podcaster, somebody that gets to go online and spout their opinions to a crowd of presumably interested followers. We've got prisoner, somebody who gets shut down for good, doesn't get to say shit. And we've got the president, somebody who's going to lead America and by extension the free world with all of the restrictions and privileges that come with that. So for our first round of Podcaster, Prisoner, President, assuming that I have the correct one pulled up here, since we've got several rounds to go through if we get to them, we have for our first person to assess, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. We've got J.D. Vance, current Vice President. We've got Donald Trump, the current line of succession. We've currently got Trump in there, but maybe we would be better off with one of these other gentlemen. What do we think about these 3? How do we sort them?
My blood pressure is like visibly rising right now.
Oh, you're muted, Tali.
Yeah, Tali, I think you might be muted.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
Good luck.
Mike Johnson, president. Donald Trump, podcaster. JD Vance, prison.
Donald Trump gets to be a podcaster, you say?
Yes.
It'd at least be worth watching or listening to, other than the fact that it would continue
He's
to
funny.
ruin America.
Listen, even I'll concede that Donald Trump has made me laugh here and there.
Oh, yeah.
As much as he grosses me out, if he didn't have an effect on the world, much like Alex Jones, if he was just a cartoon character that said ridiculous things, I'd probably listen to him all the time. Unfortunately, he does have an effect on our livelihoods and well-beings. But so with this lineup being proposed, what does everybody else think?
I think you need to switch Trump and JD Vance there.
We need to get him out of the American mind ASAP. It's fun. It's a fun answer, but get him out of here. Get him out of here.
I have a lot of apprehension about Mike Johnson and how he conducts himself as Speaker of the House, especially his feigned ignorance on a variety of topics. Oh, I don't know what.
These are your only other options.
Learning about this thing, but
your only other options
out of the
Donald
3,
Trump
he would be the
JD
best.
Vance.
Yeah,
okay,
out of the 3, he would be the president, and
the least bad. Yep.
would be JD.
So you're putting Donald in prison. Mike Johnson gets a. What is he? Is he podcasting or presidenting?
He's president, and then JD would be a podcaster. Yeah, I don't think JD would even be a good podcaster. Like,
no, he's terrible at it. He tried with.
He's double prisoner. Am I?
Kyle, I see what you're doing. Oh. You're trying to send them both to prison.
What? No, I'm not.
I see your game, Kyle.
Oh, damn it! I've been figured out very well. We'll. There we go. Is that no? That's not bad.
Make them all president.
There we go.
It's like a nightmare scenario.
All right. Well, I mean, God help us if that's where we ever find ourselves, but perhaps it would be better than our current circumstances with Donald as president. But this is where we've got it. We've got Mike Johnson leading us all with everybody checking up on each other's pornography habits, presumably. We've got J.D. Vance boringly and lazily espousing his ideas to a collection of sleeping listeners, and Donald Trump languishing away in prison where he fucking belongs. Anyway, with that said, we are reaching the 8 o'clock hour, and I want to make sure we give time to say thanks to Kay for coming on the show. We always appreciate having you on here in the Marketplace of Ideas. And hopefully we look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Excellent.
And, Tali and I, we will be streaming tomorrow. So Check us
Yeah, I
out.
saw that. You guys reiterate your podcast for my viewers and the viewers of the Marketplace of Ideas as well.
Yeah, so my YouTube is Morally Loaded, and Tali and I stream on Tuesdays and usually another time later in the week. And our show is called Talking Shit, and we talk shit and talk about politics. And I'm more interested in how people arrive at their conclusions than the conclusions themselves, usually. Yeah.
We're typically at
Yep.
like 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays, and like what is it, like 8 p.m. ish, 8:30 p.m. on Fridays. That's our
Yeah.
typical schedule.
Yeah. Well,
Beautiful.
cool, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
We'll see you
neighbor.
next
later.
time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Nate.
All right.
There were 4.
And then there were 4, and still no callers. So, gang, how about we get through a few more rounds of this game we've got here?
Beautiful.
Alrighty. So,
Let's do it.
next up, we've got a new trio. And let's see once again. Am I pulling
Before you
up-
do that, I'm
Oh.
just thinking maybe once in a while we should make some of these that aren't just like blood pressure destroyers. You know, mix the game up a little bit.
No, the psychic damage is so fun, though.
Well, we could keep it
Part
at
of the
like
game.
at
Yeah,
least
I'm gonna have to like see a
60%
doctor
psychic
after
damage.
this. You know, they're gonna be like, your cholesterol's too high. Nope, I was on a game show.
All right. Well, maybe this one will be a little bit less stress-inducing. We've got.
For us.
Well, certainly for us, if we've got Gavin Newsom starting us off, we might be looking at some lefties here. Gavin Newsom, we've got Kamala Harris, and we've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. 3 verified baddies who might be running for the Democratic nomination in 2028. Where do we sort these 3?
This is actually hard.
I prison AOC.
Oh, boo.
I figured it.
Actually, well,
Damn.
she's the one I dislike the least. I mean, you could say what KKK Kamala needs to go to prison because you know she's the Palestinians need to be accounted for.
I don't know that line. Can you explain it to me?
And I'm memeing. Fuck you.
Oh, okay.
She was part of Genocide Joe's agenda.
Yeah,
to murder
Genocide
all
Joe. Okay,
Palestinians.
gotcha. Yeah.
You know?
How could I
Yeah.
forget?
Yeah.
How could
Come
I
on.
forget?
Kamala
Guys,
Harris
seriously.
personally went to Israel. She took a sniper rifle and then she started like killing Palestinian children. Don't you know?
It's true. I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it on
yeah.
TikTok.
You saw it? Yeah, it was on
Prisoner
Twitter.
is AOC. I think podcaster Kamala and then Gavin Newsom president.
Podcaster Kamala, and Gavin gets to be president like he's always
Yes.
wanted and totally isn't going to be doing in 2 years, despite what everybody basically knows. Well, that's where we end up with, according to North Tali. How do you feel about that?
I think that's basically, if I spend too long thinking about this, I think I could convince myself of other configurations, but that is also that would have been my first go at that.
Very well. Well, then that's where we'll leave it. Gavin gets to be president. Kamala gets to have a podcast and say whatever it is she believes at a given time to her audience. And AOC, my queen, has to go to prison.
Well,
All right,
wait, Kyle.
fine.
Let's take a quick crack at this. You and I. What are you?
Okay,
what are your
sure.
instincts? What are your
One
instincts?
for the lefties. Why not? Well, let's see.
Got some red meat on this one. Let's chow down.
Okay.
I mean, Kamala would make a very bad podcaster.
Well,
to be fair,
Ooh, Newsom
Gavin already
podcast.
basically is a podcaster.
Yeah.
Like he has his own like
that's
show.
true.
He's a memer.
So
And
that
it's-
wouldn't change the status quo.
And it's not terrible. I will say I've enjoyed some of those conversations as I've listened to them.
You're canceled.
I know
Oh my
people really
goodness.
disliked the what was it, the Ben Shapiro one. I know he got
He
a
had Ben
shitload of
Shapiro,
flack for that.
he had
And it wasn't
And
even
the
that
Charlie
bad
Kirk
too.
one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because Ben Shapiro is based.
Ugh.
well,
He's another example of someone who North probably would say compromised all of his principles to support Trump.
I
but still
think Ben Shapiro was especially egregious because he articulated in detail of how he compromised his ideals in order to support Donald Trump.
I just
like-
feel bad for his wife.
Why?
Well,
it's a mildly deep cut, and it's
Shall we? I mean, shall we?
Well, yeah,
I'm
open
offended,
it up.
so you're gonna have
all right.
to.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, don't worry. It's not going to get any better after we explain it.
Ben Shapiro once retorted to somebody.
I think this was around the wet ass pussy controversy.
Yeah. The wet ass p word song, as Ben covered it. So the response was that that apparently his wife told him that a vagina that has too much excretion is actually a medical issue, and that it's actually better if it's not so wet down there. And I think that she might have been saying that to protect poor Ben's feelings.
That's where we lefties run with it. Obviously, there's a perfectly reasonable statement in there,
Bullshit.
but he dunked
His
on himself.
wife is pregnant with like their 5th child right now, so I don't think they're having many issues in that department. No.
Well,
he left himself open. At the very least, he left himself open to be like, actually, my wife says.
Yeah, there was no reason to share that story. That's
yeah. He set himself up for that.
It's in good fun.
Well,
yeah.
with
But
that
I do
said,
genuinely have like a massive disagreement with Ben Shapiro, and I would love to talk to him to be able to ask him like why he compromised himself so much.
All right,
James.
But in theory, if he like if Trump didn't exist or like if I don't know if Trump, it's hard to do the counterfactual, but I would presume that Ben Shapiro represents a lot of the things that you identify with.
Oh, 100%. That's what makes me so bad about it. It's because
he's like the only principled. He's one of the few principled conservatives.
Amazing. Yes. But he wasn't.
Which is why you need to be willing to accept.
He abandoned
why
everything.
you need to be willing, if you want, because even the good people, a lot of them got on the Trump train, which is why you're going to need to be willing to accept those people back into the fold without making them repent for all of their sins.
I'm not saying that they need to repent for voting for Donald Trump. There just needs to be an acknowledgement that Donald Trump, at the very least, his second administration, was not good in terms of conservatism or in terms of like just general holistic benefit to the nation. Like,
all right, well, lest we get caught on a
we've already litigated this.
One more time, James, just for old time's sake. No?
Yeah.
James.
Oh yes.
If we are tasked with sorting our lefties,
just to trigger people, I just want to put AOC as president. It's not my real answer, but I would love to see her get a shot. I do believe in her to moderate in an impressive way and be a rational leader. I do think she has what it takes. That wouldn't be my real answer. I trust Gavin to have a more proactive desire to lead and create meaningful policy, even if at the end of the day it is for some sort of vain, self-honoring whatever. I think he would be the most likely to get something done. I think Kamala shouldn't run, not because I don't think she'd be a good president, but because I think by not being there to tell the American people what should happen next, she's kind of given up her position to speak on behalf of the American people. I think she had a big opportunity as Trump was doing everything to be that voice out there that says, should have picked me, guys. And I think she's absolutely dropped that. And I think it's an indictment of her inability to be a strong leader that we need in this sort of situation.
She's the one that did the newsroom. What am I thinking of? That Twitter account. You guys know what I'm talking about? Tali might know what I'm talking about.
No,
the Situation Room.
That she like started. This was like a couple months ago, maybe.
Yeah. What is I'm thinking of? What's the name? You know what I'm talking.
Obviously, they haven't done anything. I know what you're talking about.
No, I've seen it pop up every once in a while. I think they've done things with it. I see it. They just like post news, about like current events, mainly like news, not nudes. Although that would be.
I'll subscribe either way.
You know.
I would prefer nudes of Kamala than policy prescriptions from her. So.
All right. No, now we're completely off the rails.
Kamala's hot. Kamala is very attractive.
I mean,
did you ever see that meme where it's
nice
the hyena stockings that it's tagging Kamala Harris?
Kyle, this is a goon stream now.
Oh, please. No. We need to get back on track. James, we've heard why you think
Newsom
Kamala shouldn't
president,
run, but who?
Kamala, unfortunately, to jail just because for the last two, AOC'd be a better podcaster. I'd listen to either of them. Even though
not bad on the mic.
Even though Kamala's got a little bit of the Hillary problem, where it feels like comes off as disingenuine.
Well, we're not too far off from where our friends on the right have put it. The left is apparently voting for Gavin Newsom as president. We're putting Kamala in prison, perhaps for her digressions, I should say, of not securing the election when she had the chance.
No, I'm not even mad about that.
Okay.
I get it. They had a huge apparatus, a huge establishment of people, telling them, okay, the polls say this, and you got historically what we got to do here is we got to, I can
excuses. She fucked.
Yeah,
it.
if only Kamala Harris condemned Israel one more time,
that would have done it. That would have done it.
I don't think that's a ridiculous concept. I think she could have. She would have had to actually criticize the establishment she was a part of that failed to stand up to Israel.
There is probably an argument to be made that, by tying herself
if
to
that
the
were
status quo,
true,
the previous
then
administration,
maybe
that probably hampered her, especially with the negative optics of Joe Biden. I can understand that, but I don't necessarily think the Israel thing was that.
James, you're buying into the lie that the Biden administration that he is Genocide Joe, and that she needed to take some brave stance because secretly all that the Biden administration wanted to do was to genocide Palestinians and jerk off Bibi Netanyahu. It's just obviously not an accurate description of events, and it doesn't take into consideration the amount of people that would have potentially been turned off. I mean, not to feed the conspiracy theories, but Jewish donors to the Democratic Party make up a pretty significant portion of their donor base. And so you have to, if you calculate how many online lefties she may have gained by going harder against Biden on Palestine, you have to also consider how many people she would have turned off with that messaging.
You don't think that there's some ground where she could have said, "Hey, this is obviously a humanitarian crisis." There's ways they could have.
I think she did say that.
Of course, she said all of that. She would have to lie to go any harder than what she said. She would have to lie, which politicians lie. So I guess maybe she should have done that to win if you're concerned with her winning. But no, she would have to just pander and lie and feed into the delusions that they have, which is a big problem that I have with populism. And again, I know joke's on me because I voted for Donald Trump, but truly I was not thinking in the frame of populism when I cast that vote. That is something that I've come to view the sort of political axes and whatever differently now. But that's my issue that I have with populism, is it requires lying to the people and dumbing down issues and lying to them so that you can earn their vote and build off of their angry energy, and I think that's bad.
I don't think that it's the issue that made the difference. I think there's a million other places that were probably better places to make that ground. I forget how we got onto this specifically. I don't think I was the one that brought up the Israel thing, because that's not my first issue to go to usually. Maybe I did make that mistake this time, but I do think that there was probably some room for her to be more emphatic about that, or come off as they had a little bit more of a spine.
A spine for who? Against who? Doing what?
I think, well, as I said, there is
bringing pressure against the Israeli administration that was recklessly.
Again, that just feeds into the framing. It feeds into the framing that they were just conceding to the Israeli administration.
It's in the same direction as it. That's not the same framing. No, that's not the same framing at all.
James,
it's in the same direction, but it's not the same
you went right
framing.
into the Israeli deep end.
You did do it, yeah. Which that's okay. I still like you plenty, but it's not accurate. It's not an accurate representation of what actually happened.
You don't. Which part is not accurate?
Well, there's two parts, the two large parts that are not accurate. I'll save one of them. But it's not accurate to say that the Biden administration was working hand in hand with the Netanyahu or didn't push back forcefully enough that they were somehow cucked or cowered by the Netanyahu administration.
Well, what actions did they actually take to bring them in check?
I mean, several things. First of all, they prevented the Israeli army from going into Rafah for something like 3 weeks to a month, which, by the way, the reason that Israel wanted to go in there is because they had very good intelligence to suggest that that's where a majority of the hostages were being held. And when they went in after, it turned out that was accurate. And a bunch of the hostages were then dead at that point. So that's quite unfortunate. They forced Israel to stop the short-lived aid blockade that they did. There were several. They cut off weapons shipments of the 2,000-pound bombs. There were several steps that the administration took, which again, there's like irony, right?
So then maybe it's
the
just
pro-Israel
messaging.
people. The pro-Israel people felt that Biden was handicapping the Israelis in an unfair way, felt that Biden was giving in too much into the messaging of the left. So it's extra like ironic for the people on the left to say that Biden was just like this genocide heir working hand in hand with Netanyahu. It's just I also don't think there's a genocide or was a genocide, so I'm coming from a different perspective here. But I think it's
have
just
not
like
accused
feeding
him of
the
being
derangement.
genocide. I understand how you're worried about it, but like, if my position is that I think they should have done more, then I
what should they have done?
Just real quick, if my position is they should have done more, at the very least messaging, but even if that is my position, then I shouldn't lie about it just because crazies that will take that and run with it. Like I'm not saying that you shouldn't say it because crazies will run with it. I'm saying you've bought into the framing of the crazies. No,
to
you
come to
you
that
keep
conclusion.
sticking me with that. Where all I'm okay. I understand what you're saying now. You're not saying that I'm saying that, though you have maybe accidentally painted me with that brush a little bit, or at least that I'm.
Unless, are you not saying
them.
that?
No, I'm not saying that he's Genocide Joe.
Well, yeah, sure.
I'm certainly not saying he's Genocide Joe. I'm not that pissed off about it. It is like,
you're making the affirmative case that he should have done more to intervene in some way. So I'm asking, what should he have done?
But there's a whole spectrum of more. Well, like I said, at the very least, messaging. But I think we should have threatened to start taking away military support, funding, etc. Or
did.
Yeah, they did do that. Like they threatened.
They both threatened and took it away.
How much?
They both threatened and took it away.
How much though? How much though?
Yeah.
So what? We should have cut all of it. Again, maybe we can stop this conversation because I don't know if we're gonna get derailed. But this weighs heavily. Because it weighs heavily on whether or not you believe the war to be just and whether you believe that Israel has a right to wage that war. So people who believe that they don't think that it was necessary for the administration to do everything they could to stop them from waging that war.
I think they have a right to. They definitely have a right to
fight back, but not win.
Well, they have a right to fight
Israel
back,
never has
but
a
not
right
at
to
any
win.
cost. But not at any cost. Like
It was not at any cost.
There's billions of dollars in infrastructure damage, and they've continued to do that for the last 2 years. Like,
which is better than 2 million lives.
It's better for Israel,
right?
It's better for Israel.
It's better for Palestinians that there's all of this.
You think it's better for Palestine that there's
the largest terrorist
most of the cities in rubble?
Human history was committed against Israel, and they had the goal of eliminating Hamas. In order to do so, they had to, kill the fighters and kill the leadership. Well, how do you kill the fighters and kill the leadership when they're hiding under, civilian buildings and like hospitals and all that? Well, you get as many people as you can out of those buildings as possible,
out of the way.
You destroy them. Yeah, and that's generally what we've seen with like the conflict. Like I think Israel is. There's a lot of people who criticize Israel, but I think they've probably done, as I understand it, they've held back and a lot of like restraint. Like in theory, they could have completely flattened Gaza, and the propaganda that they post certainly makes it look like they have.
Hold on. Yes, and the evidence. The evidence is in the evidence that you provided. So if you're going to talk about the billions of dollars of infrastructure damage and the people who cite that like something like 90% of buildings have been demolished, that is evidence against the claim of genocide. In order to damage that many buildings in such a densely packed, in a densely populated place like that, you have to take extreme efforts to move the people out of the way. There have been more bombs, like 10 times, 100 times more bombs dropped than civilians who have died. And every bomb could kill, conservatively 50 people?
There's a better way to articulate this. If Israel was attempting to commit genocide in...
if they did it in just a total destruction,
Gaza,
then everybody would come kill them. That's stupid. That's a bad argument.
Like committing genocide ever in like the history of humanity.
So if they don't,
shit,
if they don't
suck.
If they don't do it in a way that will make the entire planet attack them, then it's not genocide. If you don't do it in a way, this is a bad argument. This is a bad argument.
All right.
No, James, it's not a bad argument. If they do it in a way, if they do it in a way in that they are trying to minimize civilian casualties as much as possible, then it is just definitionally not genocide.
You think this is minimizing as much as possible?
I think
matter of degree, maybe there's a little bit more they could have done.
If they were in reckless disregard of civilian casualties, they would suck at it because the force taken and the casualties caused is just not like. I don't think it all.
I think they have to walk a line.
How many civilians do you think died? How many civilians do you think died, James?
What is it, like 40,000 or something like that at this point? I know. I know the lefties say like 200,000.
It's funny because you're gonna get. Well, yeah, you're going to get canceled, though, because you actually gave a potentially accurate number just there.
Yes.
But I'm not worried about that. But that's because the number, but the number that you're giving is below even the Hamas ministry number, which is something like 73,000 right now. But that number does not differentiate between combatants and civilians. So according to Israeli numbers of how many combatants they've killed, yes, that leaves something like 40,000, which makes the combatant to civilian ratio 1 to 1.5, even like 1 to 3 at the higher mark, which again makes it and even this genocide thing, it's not a genocide if your leaders can negotiate you out of it. If your leaders can literally what's the word when you give up?
Surrender?
If your leaders can surrender and that would stop all of it, then it's not a genocide. Yes. And again, especially it's just sorry, obviously I have strong feelings about this and I think it really does fall apart. But I think the Israel thing is going to be a disaster for Democrats in 2026 and 2028, the way that they are purity testing on Israel and making it like the centerpiece of their messaging. It's like right now, in order to run,
that's not going to be a Democrat thing.
No, it's not. No, it is not the far left at all. No, James.
It is a populist talking point. It is both.
It's a populist talking point,
and almost everyone is engaging in populist rhetoric right now because it is popular.
Most leftist politicians, most Democrat politicians are not popular.
From far leftist to moderate, almost every person running for a primary in 2026 currently, it has to state that they will not accept any money from AIPAC. So yes, it is absolutely across the board in the party. It's not just the far leftists. The far leftists have made this an issue.
AIPAC! Oh! Sorry,
yeah,
I'm memeing.
Yeah.
It's the news! It's ridiculous. The populist bullshit.
I don't think not taking money from an international organization that
it's not an international organization.
It's on behalf of Israel.
It's
on behalf of Israel, which is another nation.
No, it's not. It's on behalf of Americans.
Yes,
it's Americans who care about the
United States of America have the right to be able to perpetuate their support for another nation. I can register tomorrow the pack for Turkish or Finnish or whatever, like America's for like Finnish support. And I can raise money to make sure that like America supports Finland as like my little pet niche. Like,
all right,
there's nothing necessarily illegal or I don't think even morally wrong with how like having PACs supporting certain countries with like citizens wanting to like have closer ties with foreign countries. Like I think that's just stupid. But I feel like we will legitimately be here for another like 6 hours if we litigate the Israel-Palestine thing. I want to use.
But it's my favorite pastime.
I know it's your favorite pastime, Tali. I know that's the Destiny critique of you is that you're like you care too much about Israel-Palestine in order to
that is the Destiny critique
about
of
everything
me.
Else. Yes.
All right. Well, just to wrap this conversation up, I am not as crazy as the far leftists that you feel putting their tendrils into my brain. Okay.
They just have. They've landed. They've got you all taped up, and they're about to hit the buzzer. But I don't. I really like you, James. I'm not just saying this. Like I think you're awesome. I think you're smart. I really like the two of you. I like being on your show. I'm happy to push back on you because I feel strongly about this. But I don't think you're crazy or deranged.
I'll try and summon up my best researched arguments for this, and we can have another conversation about it sometime. I think there's definitely some more fertile ground here.
I will kick your ass.
Bring it.
Yeah.
Bring it.
But for now, we conclude that round of podcaster prisoner president. Perhaps Kamala could have done more to differentiate herself, but either way, she is going to find herself in prison for the things that she did. I don't want to misstate James and claim something that he didn't say. Gavin gets to be president, AOC gets to be podcaster, and we've got another round of P3 to get to. So, with that said, a fresh trio. We have J.D. Vance once again. Wait, is he not showing up? Damn it!
No.
That's the thing about having all of
amazing
my rounds.
Production quality, huh?
Well, you know what?
Pretty great.
That's the problem when you rely
better
on
than your
MS
stream, North.
Paint.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Where's your games at?
Yeah, where's your graphics?
Once again,
I don't need games.
Where's your self-written
opinions.
theme song?
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
bring it on.
2 viewers
Once
right now.
again, proving himself to be, as Pisco called him, an arrogant piece of shit. My goodness, have I never agreed with him more.
I remember that. Oh man.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So then,
we talked about that after we were like, should we have stepped in when he was calling him out like that?
No.
We were like, nah, North's a big boy.
You
You can handle it.
More and more, I'm even
You gotta be a
seeing where
big
he's
boy
coming from.
operating this space.
Plus, he was
Speaking
being
of
an
big
arrogant
boys,
piece of shit. So, like, it kind of not actually.
We have the biggest boy of all, Donald Trump, as our first person to adjudicate. We have, maybe this will be a little apropos of what we were just talking about. Bibi Netanyahu.
Benjamin Nod. Okay.
And third on the list, we've got Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin.
A little bit of
Jesus
geopol
Christ.
here to mix things up in the marketplace of ideas for podcaster, prisoner, president.
How
Which
red
of
is Netanyahu right there? What happened?
Jesus, yeah, what a bit sunburnt there, huh?
Might be lighting also.
I want to know what he was just asked
very
because it
important
seemed like
question.
it seemed like
sure.
it hit.
For the option of president, do I get to, like, if I make them president, do I assume that they're operating like in the best faith of like the United States? Like, if I pick, not necessarily the fall of the Constitution, but they want to promote.
When has that
the
ever
US.
happened?
No.
In the same way they
When
want
does
to
that
promote
ever
their native
happen?
country.
They get to advance their agenda, whatever that may be.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Putin for prison, Netanyahu president, Trump podcaster.
Oh boy, appeasing the Zog posters,
That's
proving that we actually
for me.
are
Yeah,
a
that's easy.
Zionist-owned government. Very good.
I think because if you're assuming that they aren't operating in the benefit of their own country, then I think I have to do Trump president, BB podcaster, and Putin prisoner. Because I don't know if he was operating like
He's voting for
like
Trump.
promoting the United States to the point where like he would represent like if he were to promote the US in the same way that he would promote Israel, then I'd be fine with that. Right. Like I would put him as president. But I just don't know if he would. Because of like I think he would just put more focus on Israel than the US.
I think there's a legitimate question to how much Bibi Netanyahu has promoted Israel versus promoting himself as the answer to Israel's problems, and therefore continued to grind them forward into more problems when he could have made more efforts to create a peaceful solution. Everybody sounds like they agree with me.
No, I don't.
Tali's just like, no, I'm not going to educate him on this one.
Slowly,
I'm just going to keep.
Slowly coming down.
We'll wait till
I would
round
have
2.
waited to have the Israel-Palestine argument after I'd unveiled Bibi Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Then it would have felt especially timing appropriate. All right, so perhaps we differentiate who gets to be president and who gets to be podcaster, but it's either going to be Donald or Ben running the U.S. Perhaps.
Well, wait, Tali, do you think Netanyahu is corrupt?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Right. I mean, yeah, less corrupt than Trump.
Mm.
And certainly more competent.
Yeah. He's ran up tens of thousands
more
of dollars.
More competent. Yes. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And more coherent, like more capable in that way, which might be a reason that other people would choose not. People who think that he's, Hitler would not want him for those reasons. But yeah, he is corrupt. Certainly.
Well, that's not a disqualifying factor for who gets to be president. So, and it's not a disqualifying
Not among
factor for who
these
gets to be
three.
podcaster.
It's almost a requirement
Certainly
these
not.
days.
Well, one thing's for certain though, Vladimir Putin gets to go to prison. Fuck him.
Easy.
All right. Well then, that will then take us to our next round. We've got 2 more rounds remaining. Which one did it take me to in OBS? I have no way of knowing. I don't know which one. They're all covered up with question mark squares. I don't know which one we're at until I reveal it. So, what do we get with this?
Elizabeth Warren, Jesus.
Elizabeth Warren.
Starting off strong.
So it looks like we're back to lefty territory here. Warren, we've got Bernie Sanders in the middle, and then all the way on the right column we've got Ro Khanna.
Again, blood pressure raising.
That's part of the fun, though. That's part of the fun.
I hate all these people.
Well,
yeah.
One of them gets to be president, so who is it going to be?
Christ.
This will hurt for us, too, because I don't want any of them to go to jail. Nice people.
Bernie, jail. No.
My God.
Ro Khanna, podcaster. He's already doing that. Elizabeth Warren, president.
Okay, so podcaster.
I am once again asking you to tune into my podcast. I like that.
Actually, hold on.
Oh.
Switch Bernie and Ro Khanna.
Thank you.
Okay.
Get him out of there. You can't have this man die in jail after you fought for the American people for so long, honestly. You can say whatever you want about his policies. He at least cares and has worked hard on behalf of the American people and not for his own enrichment.
I think Bernie already basically like a de facto podcaster, and I think at the very least he isn't engaged in the slopulism as Ro Khanna is. Because Jesus Christ, Ro Khanna is like the Epstein class, the elites, the billionaires. Jesus.
I was wondering this about you, but we might have to just save it. I can't reconcile some of the things you've said that I largely agree with, and your support for Thomas Massie, unless that's not accurate.
It's complicated. I think Thomas Massie is very genuine, but I'm either going to because it's tomorrow.
I used to think he was very genuine. I no longer do.
4th District Kentucky primaries is tomorrow, and I will be there, and I have to choose between Ed Gowrand and Thomas Massie or abstaining. And I'm probably going to still vote for Massie. I think he is genuine. I don't think I've seen anything that's been intentionally deceptive by him. Although, that being said, I don't think he's like a good direction for the Republican Party. I just think he's just honest, and I think that's was worthy of me voting for him. It's just him being honest.
Unfortunately, the odds makers don't have him up. They have the other guy up by like 20% or so.
It's not. It's at least the poll that I was looking at yesterday or this morning, it was almost 50-50 for like 5 different polls.
Okay. So maybe the odds makers will be wrong on this one. But
Which has never
like
happened
Kalashny or whatever. Yeah.
Well, Tali, how do you feel about this assortment for this trio?
This is hard because none of them should be president.
But who would be the least painful to suffer under?
Yeah, honestly. Okay, I was gonna say Bernie for president over Elizabeth Warren, but I think I changed my mind I've changed my mind already because that will just increase the anti-Semitism in our country because we'll have like an actual Jewish communist leading the country and his voice and stuff. So I have to, I guess he'll be a podcaster. I agree. Ro Khanna, throw him out. Elizabeth Warren, that's really cringe. I don't want to hear her talk. I don't want to so much for 4 years. That sounds not fun, but in order to protect the state of Jewish life in America, I think Bernie Sanders cannot become president.
Very well. Well, with that said, Elizabeth Warren in this circumstance gets to be president with all of her wonkery, leading the way in the country. Bernie gets to treat the country to his amazing Brooklyn accent that I love to do impressions of, but won't do one right now. And Ro Khanna, he gets to go to prison. Well, too bad for him.
Notice we sent the brown one to prison. Very problematic.
You
Classical
know what?
American.
I wasn't gonna point that out, but little on the nose for a couple of Republicans. Just saying.
Jesus.
Well, that takes us then to our final round of podcaster prisoner president, and that takes us then to I can only assume that this must be JD Vance in the first column.
Jesus.
That's going to take us
it's
next
gonna be like Gavin Newsom in the second column. I'm going to call it right
it's
now.
not going to be.
I'm seeing the future. Rubio.
Marco Rubio. We might be looking at some people on the right. And Tucker Carlson. This is the top 3 potential candidates, according to the odds makers, for the Republican domination in 2028. Where do we sort them?
So easy.
We made it
so easy. Tucker's going to prison. Rubio is president, and JD Vance gets a podcast that really no one would listen to.
I think I would agree with that. Yeah,
I know you agree with that. This one was very easy.
I think we've already litigated this with previous discussion.
Yeah.
So.
Accidentally, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Tucker. Actually, can you give Tucker prisoner twice, just for good measure?
Unfortunately, the layers are made such in a way that they stack on top of each other. We'll just double the sentence. How about that?
Yep. 2 life imprisonments.
Instead of
2 consecutive life sentences. Yeah.
We will keep him alive for a second life. Put him in jail.
Beautiful.
And he'll have to watch as the left continues to make progress.
That's not going to help us bring down the deficit, though, if we have to pay to keep him alive.
Yeah,
we can punish him. So
put him in slave labor. We're good at that.
It might be worth it for the good of society if we just had that emblem of everything that we don't like in our country. And you see that guy? We hate him so much that we are going to pay extra money to keep him alive just so he can be in jail more. That's how much we repudiate his ideals. So
it's the opposite of how they've got Lenin's head still.
Wait, Tali, have you considered we could just send him to El Salvador?
I'm on board.
Yeah, well, maybe that's where he goes. So yeah, Carlson to CCOT. JD Vance gets a boring ass podcast that nobody listens to, and Marco Rubio gets to be the president. And that concludes this week's game of podcaster prisoner president. And what a great time it was. We are approaching 9 o'clock. I myself am going to want to get food before too much longer, but I was thinking, with the little bit of time we had, with all this discussion about where the right should go, is going, what the left might do to pull the right's vote, James, you and I are on the left.
Correct.
What if we could propose a set of policies and messaging, and see if we can try and pull these 2 folks on the right over to our side? Can we do it?
Oh boy, good luck with that.
Well, what do we just do a pitch here?
Sure.
Throw a little pitch?
What have you got? What have you got for us, James?
Give me your Shark Tank best.
All right. There are some issues that we're not going to agree on. And I understand that. Sure. And I think it's more important for America to heal right now than it is to push my ideal policies. So what I'd like to propose is that we both come towards the center, or the center space between us, and we have a reasonable lower tax on working class people, and we will mildly raise the taxes on the people who can afford it.
Like Tali.
I think there's a lot of important issues around racism that could be solved in the future, but on the national level, I don't think that's as important as fixing the rift in our nation. And God, what policies? I see now you're getting what
bringing down trade barriers, and
is the question, how far would I be willing to
on states allowing them to be pro-life, and
I'm having trouble asking myself how much would I be willing to sell out towards
Concede.
Yeah, how much would I be willing to concede to make this happen? And the answer is a fucking lot, because there's just been such a rift. Yeah, I would go back and vote for a Bill Clinton, or even God, I might even take a Reagan at
Mitt
this
Romney.
point if it would help heal that rift. Kyle,
What about John Fetterman?
Fetterman?
Oh boy.
I mean, I think he's broken. I'm not super
They're
familiar
gonna
on
be
his specific
insane,
policies, and I think
What if that was a way? What if that was a way to bring back the disaffected liberals who turned Trump in 2024?
I mean, I don't think it is, but if it were, sure, yeah, I'm very reasonable. I think the schism in the country and the fact that Americans are there's so much inability for the left and the right to speak to each other that, like, yeah, I'd vote fucking Rubio if it would do it. Even though I've got plenty of criticisms of him. There's not a lot of issues that I would be unwilling to give up on in a short term so that America as a people can make progress and come back to the table with one another. Yeah.
I admire that.
Kyle, what do we have? What do
Yeah.
you have for policies that you think you'd like to suggest?
What do I have for policies that I
Yeah,
would
you
like
said
to
we.
suggest? Sure. I would like to make the tax brackets way more progressive. I would like to raise the number for the minimum tax bracket, something much higher than it is, so that we're not going straight from 10 into 20. I would like us to maybe extend those brackets up until maybe the million mark, so that people who are making 400K aren't the top tax bracket. I would like for us to maybe I don't know.
Doesn't that like reduce taxes? Just out of curiosity. Doesn't that
Would it
reduce
reduce taxes? Well, somebody smarter than me can sort out where those brackets land. But what I do think is that
we need non-fun to call in.
The 10 to 20 is too abrupt. I think that we should lower taxes for people who are working class. And I think that maybe we dump it up just a little bit for the people who can afford to pay it in the upper tax brackets. And I think that would do some good to alleviate the spending frustrations that people in the working class are having, while maybe doing something to shore up the losses on the other side of that. I think that maybe we could stand to not give tax breaks to people who are making tips. I know that's something that some working people benefit from. I know, but I think
it's me. I get those tax benefits, motherfucker. You are personally attacking me.
I promise you, I made way more in tips than you
How
ever
am I
did.
supposed to support you if you personally attack me with that?
Come
on, Kyle. Come on.
I made more in tips than you ever did. I promise you. Working in restaurants, this would have benefited me as well. And I still think it's bad policy to give tax breaks just for tips. I think it's bad to single out one industry over all the others when, quite frankly, all working people could use that lift. So that's my position on taxes. I think that
not only that, I think it's just going to be abused by the conservatives to like, oh well, this is just a tip now. This is a $50,000 tip for all your hard work for us.
Maybe. I think that we should. Make it easier to build housing by doing away with certain zoning regulations. I think that that would do wonders to help us increase our housing supply. Maybe bring down the cost a little bit that way. And I also think that.
What about environmental regulations?
I think
protect the shit out of it. That's that's one I won't move that far on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go Teddy Roosevelt on that. I think that we
gotta protect our shared spaces.
Have you guys ever read Abundance?
We gotta protect the value of our nation by not letting it get polluted.
You know, Abundance provides the argument that environmental regulations are bad.
It probably does it contextually. No, it probably does it contextually. No, it does it contextually.
Yeah, well, yes, it does it contextually.
Well,
it's all bad.
If you're under the argument that you think that like building solar panels and wind farms are important for society and good for the environment, that the environmental regulations that exist to, like, I don't know, prevent I guess harmful buildings from being built also prevent the green energy projects from being built. And it's in fact, if you were to roll that back, you would create better outcomes in terms of green energy. So yeah,
I don't know about that. I would have to think strongly about that.
I would have to have someone else think for me, actually.
Those are
my question was in the context of like building housing and stuff too. So along the lines, it was an abundance geared question that I was asking about I'm not saying we should just get rid of all environmental protections. I'm certainly not saying that, but in specific regard to how that impacts the ability to build housing. That's
wait, Tali, have you read Abundance?
I haven't read Abundance. No, I've listened to the authors speak about it. Yeah.
I was gonna say it would be really funny if the two conservatives had read Abundance and then the two left-wing people didn't.
I should read it just so that I can read it before they do, so that will still be true. Yeah. Exactly.
Now, if you have like Spotify
if it's on audiobook,
Premium,
then I got
the audiobook. Yeah, it's on Spotify. So.
I will do no such thing. Readings for nerds. But what I will say is that I think certain environmental protections should be in place for these, the house building venture. I think that there needs to be a certain amount of judiciousness when deciding where to make those compromises and where not. I don't think that they should be entirely thrown out, though. If I could give that sort of quick statement on it without having a more nuanced take on it.
And you're the reason why California can't build railroad.
All right.
You personally.
Well, with my policy proposals and James's concessions culturally, how do you think we've done to bring you over?
If the candidates sounded like our mixture, and we were up against JD Vance, would that bring you a little closer to being willing to forgive the left?
I can handle 4 years of Democrats that have been at JD Vance.
It's easy for North, but Tali, could we against JD Vance get you considered?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, it's really hard with JD Vance because I'm like really inclined to dislike him. He represents, I think, the faction of the right that I'm most concerned about. Back to that thing that I keep bringing up.
Yeah.
But things could change. I don't know. But then again, do I want to trust him if he changes because he's such a flip-flopper? No, probably not. 2028 is going to be interesting. I wouldn't vote for that over Marco Rubio. I would potentially vote for that over JD Vance.
All right.
I'll take it. I like it. Yeah, I'll take that win. Absolutely bank it.
Beautiful. And what a fantastic, victorious note.
What if we added in full support for Israel? Okay. Perfect. One last meme. I think I do want to head out and go get a beer here in a sec.
Beautiful.
Nice.
It's been wonderful talking to everybody.
Just in case the conversation was bad, I did have this lemon vodka right here.
Okay, he was ready. He came prepared.
I rolled 3 joints during the end of our conversation, so we're all on the same page.
This had a 12-ounce beer in it.
I have abstained from substances this entire time, so I feel morally superior to all of you. And
I just touched the substances.
All right, well, I've touched my substances as well, and I'm very eager to do them, but I'll wait until we're off air. Thank you so much for coming back to the Marketplace of Ideas. Tali, it was great to have you. And North, first-time guest. Hope to have you both again in the near future. I'm looking at your respective stocks. It looks like they haven't moved.
Oh, we didn't play any of the games.
No way.
The score games.
We didn't have any competitions queued up for you. It wouldn't have been fair with North just being one person and Tali and Kay being 2. And so perhaps on another occasion,
male-dominated society, so I would have had the advantage.
Yeah. The patriarchy would have awarded him the victory just by default.
Exactly.
And as a couple of lefties, we can't allow that. So hopefully we'll find another occasion upon which you can compete in the Marketplace of Ideas. But in the meantime, those stocks will be available for people to invest in with our fake currency grift.
Have you told people that it's homophobic not to buy shitcoin?
I hadn't mentioned that. It might be. Yeah,
True.
You might have a leg up on North.
You know what? I might have to buy some. Jesus. Let me.
Yeah, if you lose your woke cred if you don't.
All right, I'm gonna get banned off Blue Sky in a minute here if I don't.
North, quick, find a man to make out with.
Fuck my roommate! Give me a moment.
Well, before we get too salacious on the show, though, once again, genuinely thank you both for coming on. Where can people find you? North, you go first.
YouTube.com/@NorthIsLive. That's where I live stream. And then, you have a cat, or is that a dog trying to escape in the background?
That's a dog, obviously.
And then this specific live stream is going to be uploaded onto my VOD channel. That'll be youtube.com/NorthVods. And it's going to be fun times.
And Tali, where can people find you?
I just got
in the sun
smacked with a setting sun.
That is a harsh adjustment.
We're coming up on 6 p.m. So she's coming down over here. Holy shit! Sorry, I'm blind. Okay, you can find me. You can find me streaming with Kay. I believe the YouTube @ is not in line, but it's Morally Loaded. If you type in Morally Loaded, you'll find us. We stream again Tuesdays and Fridays. You can subscribe to me on YouTube @TaliBots. I have very little content out, but one day there's going to be incredible content and you're going to wish that you were already subscribed. And you can follow me on Twitter. I still call it Twitter @TaliBots, TaliBotz.
Excellent. Get in on the ground floor before it takes off. And if you're listening to this, you're listening to the Marketplace of Ideas. We can be found in the Marketplace of Ideas on YouTube. We've got a Discord server. We've got a fake stock market with a fake currency system. Come get in on the fun. We would love to have you join us. North, Tali, thank you so much. We'll hope to see you again.
Take care, everybody.
It's been a pleasure.